right, and thank you very much, Tisha. So the counting of votes continues following today's general election, and now the country awaits for results. Good evening, I'm Marlon Hopkinson, and welcome to our live panel discussion as we discuss and analyze today's polls, and most importantly, give you a ball by ball of the results as they come in. Our news crews are still out there and will provide live reports throughout the evening. Well, from all accounts, the Elections and Boundaries Commission says the election process went smoothly. However, there are claims of irregularities from the two major political parties, the PNM and the UNC. So joining us this evening to discuss today's polls are our guests, Dr. Bishnu Raghunath, the chairman of the Council for Responsible Political Behavior in Trinidad and Tobago. He is also a senior lecturer and head of the department at the University of the West Indies. Ms. Diane Haddad is a Tobago business leader and former president of the Tobago division of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Suniti Miraj is a veteran journalist and media executive who has led major news organizations in Trinidad and Tobago. Ms. Miraj served as an independent senator advocating for transparency reform and citizen empowerment. Dr. Kirk Megu is a political scientist and founder of the Democratic National Assembly. He is known for his critique of Trinidad and Tobago political system, and he is an advocate for political reform and transparency. And former Minister Fitzgerald Hines, former National Security Minister. He has served in multiple ministerial roles, including national security and public utilities, contributing to key legislation on crime and security. All right, so that's our panel for this evening. All right, so let's get right into it. Yeah? All right, so here's what everybody, we are going to a very short break. We're coming back. Yes, so welcome back again. So welcome to and thank you for joining us, our panel discussion. So as I told our viewers earlier today, that we are not leaving here tonight until the last ballot is counted, right? And we get the results. I just thought that I would say that so so our panelists know what they are in for this evening. Thank you very much again for coming. We do appreciate it. We know that it has been a very, very busy day. But Dr. Raghunath, I want to begin this way because as I said earlier, I think that throughout today we have been hearing allegations, mainly by some of the two main political parties, the United National Congress and the PNM. Earlier this afternoon, we would have seen a post from former Finance Minister Colin Imbert, and throughout today, Dr. Megu, he was very busy sending out a number of letters to the Elections and Boundaries Commission, complaining and expressing concerns about what some of, I suspect, some supporters would have seen or what the party would have seen. Dr. Raghunath, when you look at all of that in the context of the election, does this at all put a cloud over the conduct of the election today?
Well, it doesn't necessarily put a cloud, but I mean, concerns have been raised. Now, whether or not those concerns will be actually tested at some point in time through election petitions or whatever else, we'll have to really wait and see. People will continue to complain and raise their concerns that there are various irregularities that should not be happening. But of course, as to whether it actually puts a cloud on the entire election process, no, it doesn't necessarily put a cloud, depending on the severity, however, of some of these irregularities when they are actually presented as evidence.
Yeah, so Nisi, I want to get your perspective.
Well, I take most of what I hear as an allegation. How many of them will actually be investigated to the point where there's some conclusive position? You know, social media is full of reports, and I just take everything with a pinch of salt at this stage.
Yeah, Dr. Megu?
Well, the concerns are real, which is why we've put them officially on paper and sent them to the EBC. And even when we emerge victorious after this election, these things will still need to be looked at. We need to improve our electoral process. There are too many irregularities, too many questions, too many voters feeling disenfranchised, and it needs improvement. The EBC has to be brought up to standard.
Yeah, I know in recent days the United National Congress has been speaking about its concerns about the conduct of the polls and even mentioned a commission of inquiry. Is that still on the cards?
Yes, I think we do need to look at another commission of inquiry, because remember there was one in 2002 into the EBC, and it is something that we are seriously considering. Because as Suniti said, many of these complaints may not get investigated at all otherwise, and then next time you have an election, it will happen again. And so we need to deal with these concerns definitively.
Yeah. And Mr. Hines, as I said earlier, your colleague, former Finance Minister Colin Imbert, would have said earlier today, he said, I'm receiving several reports of UNC activists in marginal seats such as Toko, Sangre Grande, and St. Joseph, Mount Dore, attempting to induce voters to stay home or vote UNC, offering $1,000 in cash. They could try all the dirty tricks they want. They will get the same licks. Mr. Hines, have you been hearing about any claims about voter irregularities at all?
Most certainly. In the run-up to the elections, we heard some of that. I understand Mr. Imbert's observations not as an attack on the EBC, not as a criticism of the EBC, but the behavior of persons with political ambitions outside of the EBC. As for the EBC, it has a history of conducting free and fair elections in Trinidad and Tobago. We have had foreign international observers here, CARICOM observers here before, and they have found nothing untoward. I had the opportunity to meet with the CARICOM team a couple of days ago, along with a team of us, led by, of course, Dr. Rowley, and based on my observations from their look on this platform so far, they didn't find anything untoward to report. You will have the little issues. Somebody, Jack Warner today, for example, said he spent more than 10 to 15 minutes inside of there. My experience was well inside of that. I didn't spend 10 minutes in there when I went to do my bit. So, insofar as the suggestions by Mr. Imbert is concerned, I am aware that the police are now actually conducting an inquiry where a person has been arrested and a witness is being interviewed by the police. He, from the preliminary information available to me, suggested to the police that he was induced with money to participate in a process, that there were two individuals in the vicinity of in the Mount Dore area, and the police have gotten involved, and that matter is, as I speak to you, under investigation. So it appears to be quite real.
Yeah. Mr. Dad, have you heard any reports coming out of Tobago at all, or what have you heard?
No, we Tobago has a lot of thought. We have to be careful what we listen to and what we take out from it. So at this stage, I wouldn't say that there was anything untoward in terms of people being induced or anything like that to vote. And I came down here earlier today, but even prior to that, I think the campaigning, as I would have mentioned, in the room, the campaigning got very intense coming up to the last 2 weeks, generally, both for, and in Tobago, we would not have had anything coming over like that. So.
Yeah. But Dr. Raghunath, is it too much to expect a perfect system in the conduct of free and fair elections in Trinidad and Tobago, or is it that since we have been having elections in Trinidad and Tobago, has that been a part of the election?
Well, it has always been a part of the election. There will always be irregularities. I mean, when you consider that the EBC has to hire 13,000 members of staff to man the polling stations and so forth, and more importantly, that many of these people may not have actually been trained for any length of time. Yes, they would have had their training, but they may not have been able to be trained to ensure that there is perfection. So that's one of the issues. The other aspect of it goes on the other side, where we're talking now about this whole issue about other individuals, not the EBC, other individuals who are getting involved. And that is something that we cannot necessarily control, or there's no institution, except, for instance, as Mr. Hines would have said, that's where the police has to investigate and so forth and take it further.
Yeah. But Suniti, you think that the Elections and Boundaries Commission has done enough to allay the fears? Of course, allegations were being made a few weeks now. You think that they have, I believe last week the chief elections officer would have done a number of interviews with a number of media houses saying, well, here's what, we are putting the correct mechanism in place, adequate and efficient mechanism in place to address all of these concerns?
I think we need to do a lot more work regarding elections among the citizenry. It should be part of the education system. People should not be expected to embrace all the information that's coming during an election campaign. So many of these things, a lot of people do things and don't even know it's wrong. And there's a lack of clarity about what exactly certain things mean. So, you know, these things we should not just depend on it. There's a need for continuous information education. And I think that that is the responsibility of the EBC.
Yeah, but Dr. Megu, judging from the claims that the UNC would have made today and the allegations would have been made today, if, let's say, in the next few hours, the United National Congress is announced as winning the election, then how does the UNC navigate? Because if the UNC is saying, well, here's what, we are concerned about the conduct of these elections, well, then how do you accept victory as announced by the EBC?
Well, we need to investigate the claims, and we need to adjudicate the claims. And this is the system we have right now, and it is flawed. It is flawed, but we will seek to improve it, and that's what we have to work with, and so we will work with that, and seek to improve it. And you know, the allegations, you know, the allegations not only about the EBC, of course, political actors in other constituencies, and so all these things need to be investigated. And yes, I understand police are involved in investigating some of the things we've been seeing on social media. Yeah.
I would want you to respond, but we must first go to Urvashi. She's at the results desk.
It is, of course, decision day, so results have started to come in. We've got just a few, I believe it's about 4 polling divisions so far in Tobago East, and this is how it is looking. Of course, you can just glance at the map and you will see it is blue, but that's as of now, because according to my count in Tobago East, there are 54 polling divisions, so thus far we've got just 4 in. As you can see, at this point in time, David Thomas of the TPP, he leads with 284 votes as compared to Ayana Webster Roy with 164. Moving along now to Tobago West, and just a reminder of viewers, this is just a handful, and these are of course preliminary results yet to be confirmed and verified by the EBC. Joel Sampson of the TPP, he currently leads in Tobago West with 71 votes, and that is compared to Shamfa Kudjo Lewis with 47 votes. Now, Marlon, I know your conversation has just started, but I do have a question for your panel, if possible, at some point in time. How do you classify what we term marginal seats? You know, we're hearing San Juan Barataria, Shogunas East, and so on. How do you classify those marginal areas? Is it just constituencies, that is? It is just the difference in votes, you know, looking back at 2020, San Juan Barataria, the difference in votes was 1,060. We compare that to St. Joseph, the difference in votes was 811. Do we just limit it to the difference in votes? And what does it really take for a constituency to flip?
Dr. Raghunath?
Years ago, when Professor Ryan was around, Professor Ryan would have attempted to go through the various list of electors and try to determine ethnicity and so forth in terms of what percentage of the constituencies of one race as opposed to another race and so on. And so, for instance, in many of those instances, anytime you have constituencies where you have anywhere between a 40 and 60% majority, nothing beyond that, that would be considered marginal. Within more recent times, we have focused, because ethnicity is something that could change, and people even of one ethnic group crosses over to another ethnic group, another political party and so on. We have started looking more intently at the previous polling data for that constituency. So, for instance, Sao Barataria, St. Joseph, Shoguanas East, Tunapuna, Moruga Tablan, San Fernando West, their margins of victory has always been under 2,000 votes. And to that extent, when you look at that 2,000 vote as something that you could count on, bearing in mind that when in all of those constituencies, you would probably have about 60 or 65% of the electorate voting. So in that context, if people move across, to what extent, and there's enough room to cover that margin if another party is able to get it. So it is in that context, from my own perspective, I look at all the constituencies where there were a maximum of 2,000 votes difference since in the last two elections.
Yeah.
But I think there's another. It's whether there's in the constituency a category of persons who owe their loyalty to neither party, and there's a potential among that group to move from one to the other, depending on what circumstances are in the country at any particular time. So if you can, I would call them the people in the center. They are not the loyalists. Mm-hmm. And that group has been growing. They have the potential at any given time to switch. And they can change it within that number of persons or so.
Yeah.
They can switch.
Mr. Hines, I know you wanted to make a point.
Well, yeah, the way I see it, the way we see it, I think Uvashi is right. We do look at the history of the results in the particular seats, and in the example appositely shared by Dr. Raghunath, we basically look at the margin of 2,000 votes or so, and an understanding that half of that, 1,000, could change the balance in an outcome of an election. So basically, that's how we work the thing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, there's no hard and fast rule in political science or electoral analysis. So sometimes it's look at percentage and so forth, but generally the figure of 2,000 votes and because the 1,000 will switch it from one to the other. That's basically the accepted format we use.
Yeah,
here
I want to bring in Ms. Haddad here because a few minutes ago we were speaking about Tobago and the results that, of course, preliminary results in Tobago. But I want, Ms. Haddad, if it is possible, if we can talk a little bit about the temperature, the political temperature in Tobago. I think that this time around you have a number of political parties that have thrown their hat in the ring, as it were, in this election. In one constituency alone, I believe it's Tobago West, you have 9 candidates. Yeah, just speak to that a little bit for us.
Well, of course, it's the first time we're seeing this type of participation. It shows that persons are getting interested in for whatever reason, there are many reasons people get interested in politics. I would like to always hope it's for leadership and it's to offer good to our people and our country. And what you have found is, I don't know, like somewhere in there, somebody sent a message that the Treasury got diamonds and gold, because I'm seeing a big fight for the purse, control of the purse, and that's not for Tobago alone, that's Trinidad and Tobago. This has been a very, very enthusiastic, energetic, vibration election campaign. And in Tobago, we would have seen similarly that same build-up over the time. Whether the patriotic fronts, there wasn't that amount of course, we still ended up with the two parties, the TPP and the PNM, with the PDP, Mr. Duke still making his sound. His sound was clear. But I am not sure where that would have gone. I don't know that it was enough. Whatever damage was done over the last 3 years, I think would have probably caused some damper there. So the main two, the others were individuals after that, and the main two persons, two parties on the ground running for anything would be the TPP and the PNM. The West, I mean, the results coming so far is a little bit, but the West, the feeling we were getting is the West was, yes, was secure for the PNM, but it seems like in this election nothing is secure, so we will have to wait and see what eventually happens. And the East seem to have had some kind of, I'm not sure if it's venom, you know, the election in that side was a little bit more boisterous, or that type of energy was there. But all in all, Tobago, like you all here, started that last 2 weeks vibe started. A couple concerns for me personally would have been the TPP. The presentations were made a lot by the political leader of the party, not necessarily, I heard, the two representatives, you know?
Yes.
So as a person on the island, I'm concerned what representation is going in to the parliament should we get them as our representatives. I didn't hear them enough. I didn't know that what their ability was. And then again, it's the game of politics. The PNM, two candidates, of course, very seasoned, but I'll tell you this, at the risk, you know, I always say these crazy things, right? But at the end of the day, the mood in Tobago, and this is the PNM's baggage that they have to carry, has been one of ill feeling that they have been treated badly, right? The mood on the day when the airport was open was, man, that was an explosion of joy, an explosion of so I thought myself that I would see that momentum for a while. Of course, the election was called within a couple days of that. And so immediately, I don't know that that vibe was enough to hold it together based on the history. So I myself am very much looking to see what this outcome will be. But
all right, Ms. Haddad, I just want to, if you can just hold your thoughts there. We have to go to Renessa Cutting. I understand that she's at the headquarters of the United National Congress.
We are live from the UNC on us, and the tension and the anticipation is mounting at this time. A short while ago, the UNC would have posted their first preliminary figures that for the seat of Puna, and according to the UNC's figures, Roger Alexander was leading at the time with 248 votes, just over 100 votes on the PNM's Esmond Ford. Now, at this time, that's the only preliminary results that they have posted, and they say that they are only posting the official figures that are coming in for all of these seats. They are not going on hearsay tonight. So at this point in time, one seat, preliminary figures in in favor of UNC, and that's the Tunapuna seat. Sorry about that. Now, earlier today, of course, UNC would have raised a number of issues with the Elections and Boundaries Commission. Not one, not two, not three, but a total of 14 pieces of correspondence was sent to the Elections and Boundaries Commission, raising allegations and issues and concerns surrounding the electoral process, from issues such as allegations of deputy presiding officers not signing, not initialing ballot papers, and even one instance where a ballot box was reported to have been unlocked. Now, at this time, there's no official response from the EBC because, of course, we are in the heat of things and the ballots are coming in. So we will be here at the UNC camp. Of course, we are on standby. We are here getting you all of the latest information. So stay tuned to TV6 News.
All right, thank you very much, Renessa Cutting. She's at the headquarters of the United National Congress. Let's go over to Urvashi again at the data desk.
Thank you very much again, Marlon. So just to follow up on the information that Renessa presented, we're looking at Tunapuna. My indication is that this is just one polling division within Tunapuna. When you see the map sort of blackout, is because it's refreshing with additional information. So just to recap, Tunapuna, so it's coming in fast and furious. Roger Alexander currently leads. He has 248 votes as compared to the incumbent Esmond Ford with 167 votes. Now moving across to Mayaro, we're seeing Nicholas Morris. He's of course the UNC candidate. He's also leading in the Mayaro seat formerly held by Rushton Parry. He leads with 1,248 votes. Not sure what exactly happened there. Seemed to have a slight glitch, but I believe the PNM's candidate, Beatrice Bridgelal, she had just around 555 votes. So we'll, of course, continue to update you, Marlon, as the information continues to come. And I'm getting in information and counts on my phone. So we'll have our data entry persons continue to enter, and it'll be reflected on the map.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, Urvashi. Of course, the results are coming in, and when it happens, we are going to bring that live to you. But I want to bring in Mr. Hines, because I think that while Ms. Haddad was speaking, I saw Mr. Hines, you know, I think he thought what Ms. Haddad was saying was quite interesting. But but I think, Mr. Hines, there has been a perception from Tobagonians and those in this administration that, again, Tobago is not getting enough, and you hear it all of the time during their budget presentation. They want more. They believe that the central government should have given them more. And there was always this sort of volatile sort of relationship between the central government and Tobago. I mean, in recent weeks, I think that we saw a softening of that relationship when we were speaking about Sandals again. So to that perception, Mr. Hines, about this sort of volatility between the central government and Tobago.
Speaking as a member of the cabinet for the last 10 years, I think from a factual perspective, it would not be correct to say that Tobago was not served by the government, at least in the spirit of equity, and in some occasions more than that. I mean, in terms of the hospital in Roxborough, the fire station, police stations, Shervan and others, reopen a couple police stations. There was a persistent problem in which Madam Haddad had a very poignant role in terms of transportation, the sea bridge to Tobago. That was decisively dealt with, resolved. You don't hear anything about that, whether it's cargo or whether it's passengers. That has been resolved. We have substantially improved the air bridge. We made a genuine effort to improve the tourism product. by bringing sandals in. There was objection to it by those opposed to the PNM. It simply is not factually correct to suggest that they did not get certain things. And I was part of Dr. Rowley's team when the PNM lost the THA and Fally Augustine and they went in. Dr. Rowley from the cabinet took a very positive attitude and position for several reasons. And we took a team, he took a team of us, including yours truly, to Tobago, met with the THA. He explained that he had two purposes for doing that. One, to make himself as Prime Minister available to them, a new team taking the responsibility for Tobago, available to them, any advice, any help, any suggestions. But more than that, he impressed upon us that we too must take a very positive attitude and work very hard to assist, well, to ensure that Tobago gets services, and that Fally Augustine and they must not be in a position to say that we have not been doing what we have to in relation to Tobago because an opposing party is now running the affairs of the THA. It was, from my close-up observation, it was also my personal feeling to be very positive, very supportive, and we began on that note. And then I would notice shortly after that, Fally Augustine began to demonstrate great hostility. Now, interestingly enough, and I'm a politician, so you must bear with me, they, the TPP, are only contesting 2 seats, Tobago East and Tobago West, and therefore do not have any anticipation to form any government. So at best, what they can do in a so-called coalition of interests is to play a part in a government other than with the PNM, at least on the face of it. So I saw a level of hostility, unwarranted, unjustified. And I emphasize unjustified because we have been doing things for Tobago. In terms of the autonomy issue, I was a member of the Joint Select Committee of the Parliament, which of course by virtue of its nature included independent personnel, parliamentarians, opposition parliamentarians, and government parliamentarians. We sought advice and opinions from experts from Tobago and all around, and we began with the basic document that had come out of Tobago. And we were making genuine attempts to grant them, as far as is possible within the unitary state context, autonomy in Tobago. And I remember when the matter came, Dr. Rowley's position is we'll put it to the House and let us see. The PNM will support this.
Yes.
And we said so in advance. And then on that day, the opposition, the UNC in the Parliament, claiming that they received a text message from Fally Augustine to Saddam Hussein, objected to that autonomy bill. So again, out of that, it is quite clear that we had expressed a plain intention. We brought it to the Parliament. We pledged our 23-seat support to it, and it floundered. So it could not be justifiably said that we were not doing what we had to do.
Hines,
and I saw this hostility.
if you'd allow me, I know that
thank you.
Dr. Megu may want to respond, but we need to go to Jules Brown. He's at the headquarters of the People's National Movement. All right, so here's what. We will return to Jules when we work out that problem there. Do we have him? All right, Jules Brown, are you there? All right, we'll return to Jules. Ms. Haddad?
Marlon, I would really like to say that we did have a meeting in 2018 when, I was popular for this boat fiasco. And to be fair, that list had 26 items on it when Dr. Rowley was asked to come to a meeting with the private sector. And he did bring members of the cabinet, the Airports Authority, the Port Authority, Caribbean Airlines, Immigration, Customs, everybody was in that meeting. And we sat for 5.5 hours with a lot of, but to be fair, we did get delivery of the things that Mr. Hines just spoke of, and the airport being the climax with most recently. So to be fair, maybe the separation of parties did bring it, but the private sector did represent it, and it was delivered.
All right, could we return to Jules Brown? He's at the headquarters of the People's National Movement.
Well, the atmosphere here outside of Balizé House is certainly one of expectation as the results are coming in for the general election. And we had a bit of technical difficulty, but we are back now and live outside of this location here. And we do have with us the media liaison, as it were, for the elections for the PNM, Laurel Azama. Saying thank you very much for speaking with us.
Good evening, Mr. Brown, and good evening to your live viewing audience. We're very excited and happy to have you here and other members of the media as we anticipate, as we are cautiously optimistic rather, for the results of general election 2025.
In terms of the results, what has the PNM seen so far, at least in terms of the early polling results?
So it's very early in the evening right now. There are 41 constituencies. In each constituency, there's probably a minimum of 40 polling divisions per constituency. So as you know, we have to tabulate all of that. In our very preliminary showings, we have seen that the PNM is ahead in Arima, Aruca, Lopino, which is formerly Lopino, Bonaire West. We're ahead in Lebre, in the three Diego Martins. So those are some of the constituencies that we are ahead in, which is no surprise for us, really. Those are seats that we have already. We do not have any information as yet from those critical seats that the country would have an eye on, which would be Aranguez, St. Joseph, and Moruga, Tabelon, and Chaguanas East, Barataria, San Juan.
And the two Tobago seats?
And the two Tobago seats. Well, actually, in our preliminary showing here, it says that in Tobago East, the PNM is ahead with 197 votes. But I'm not seeing information for the rest. So that's why I don't want to tell you anything as yet, because I don't have for the other figures as yet for the other parties.
Essentially, elections at the end of the day after the campaigning and so on, it's all about getting parties getting their supporters, their base out to vote,
yes.
And also those who may not be members of their parties, but certainly, as they say, the undecided or the independent voters. What is your sense of that in this election that took place today?
Okay, so this has been a novel campaign for the People's National Movement. We have come in with a new Prime Minister at the helm 1 month ahead of the election. And what we have seen is a freshness. There has been a new energy, and as we have termed it, it's a new chapter. So we have had our traditional PNM supporters who continue to be very loyal to the ideals of the party, with espousing confidence in the policy and the philosophy of the party. But what we have seen is a great attraction from the young people to our new Prime Minister. And what he has been doing is trying to have an inclusive operation here, inviting people to come and be a part of it. And we have seen great buy-in from that. The PNM, as you know, is a 70-year-old institution and a well-oiled machine. We have put all of our machinery in place. We have had several training sessions with all of our people. In all of our constituencies, we have had our campaign managers and our campaign teams. From preliminary reports and all indications, our campaign teams have been working very well. Our election day machinery has worked very well as well. But the feedback has been that the voter turnout has been consistent. That is the word that I have been getting from the different constituencies. Consistent.
And part of the mathematical equation in this election for the PNM, I would imagine, is 22 seats that were won by the party in 2020. So of course the PNM cannot afford to lose any seats, as they would have sought to gain additional seats. Is it that the party thinks it was able to hold on to that 22 and gain any additional seats, or was the focus just trying to at least maintain that status quo, result from 2020?
So the PNM has never been about just maintaining status quo. It has been about providing very good governance to all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And as a result, we have put forward 41 excellent candidates in anticipation of actually winning 41 seats. But realistically, we have put out excellent candidates with the hope of raising that number from 22. So we have done our best. We have done our work over the past 10 years. We have had excellent leadership under Dr. Keith Rowley. We have been through a pandemic. I think because we managed the pandemic so well, people seem to have forgotten that we were in a pandemic. We did 2020. It was a very different atmosphere. You were here 5 years ago. And so we had an excellent, steady government taking us through all of these different challenges that came with the pandemic, including economic challenges. We have now come to 2025, and it's a new chapter for the People's National Movement. And we do anticipate, it is our hope to get more than the 22 seats, and so that we can continue to provide good governance to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you so very much. There you have it from this location here outside of Balizé House, where the PNM is expressing its confidence in terms of the 22 seats that it won in 2020, holding on to those and getting additional seats as we await the results to see whether or not the majority of those who voted today also had that same view or something different. Back to you in studio.
All right, Jules Brown, thank you very much for that report. We are going to have a very short break, everybody. We're coming back. You know, I have a saying sometimes what happens off air is more interesting than what is happening on air, you know. It's election night in Trinidad and Tobago. And again, not only discussing the election, but we're trying as much as possible to give you as much results as possible. So let's go to the data desk with Urvashi.
Thank you very much, Marlon. Well, as you mentioned, it is decision day, but as Laurel also, very usefully put things into perspective, it's still very early in the game, but we do have some results for you as far as Arangua St. Joseph is concerned. Devish Mirage, the UNC candidate, he has 234 votes compared to Terence Dialsing, the PNM's candidate, and of course the MP, the current MP for the area. Across in Tunapuna, Roger Alexander has 248 votes compared to Esmond Ford with 167. Let's see what's happening in Mayaro. Nothing has changed. Still, Nicholas Morris leads with 1,284 votes compared with Beatrice Bridgelal, 555. We've got some preliminary results coming out of San Fernando West. Faris Al-Rawi, 49 votes. Michael Dowlat for the UNC, 86 votes. Of course, this looks like it's just one polling division we got results for thus far. Across in Point Fortin, Kennedy Richards Jr., 117 votes. He's currently in the lead compared with Ernesto Kizar under the UNC banner with 80 votes. Have things changed? Yes, things have changed in Tobago West. Shamfa Kujo Lewis is now in the lead with 631 votes compared with Joel Sampson with 592 votes. Across in Tobago East, I think that would be the previous results. We had Iana Webster Roy, 259. David Thomas of the TPP, 683 votes. That's a wrap of what we have coming in so far, but results are coming in fast and furious. Dr. Raghunath will tell you in some constituencies there are as many as 50 polling divisions, sometimes even more. So, we really have to wait until everything comes in. The narrowest margin in the 2020 election, I believe, would have been 800 plus votes, Dr. Raghunath, with the, let's see, St. Joseph. Yes, that would have been St. Joseph. I don't have the, Moruga Tableland was 1,072. Just a question off the top of my head. Have we ever had a tie at constituency level? I know we've had very close results when we look at the electoral districts and local government election, but in my recollection, I've never heard about a constituency level tie.
Never heard of it at the constituency level. At the local government level, yes, but not at the constituents level.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Urvashi. If I could, and take the discussion in a different direction now, I want to look at the campaign a little bit of the main political parties. Of course, the PNM, their campaign was red, ready, and responsible, and the UNC, when UNC wins, everybody wins. I think, Dr. Raghunath, some very interesting themes there adopted by both the PNM and the UNC.
Definitely very interesting, because in fact, when you look at, for instance, the PNM's campaign, all in, simply because they were now looking at a change in leadership of the PNM, and to make sure that the base of the party consolidates itself to go all in, to make sure that they continue to take the government forward and to hold on to government taking it forward. And that's why they wanted to go beyond that. And in fact, Ms. Lizama would have said it, that they're looking to get more than the 22 that they currently had. In the context of the UNC, everybody wins. I mean, in fact, I was joking today and says, well, maybe we could get a result where everybody wins, but we'll have to really wait and see. But the point about it here is simply one, they were trying, and in fact, Kirk may want to jump in there and say exactly what they were saying, but the point about it here is they were, in pushing forward, they were simply saying that under the current government, regardless of where you are in the country, you would have suffered some setbacks within the last 5 years or the last 10 years. And as they go forward, they were hoping to project that they could do something that will change the fortunes of the entire country. So it's in that context I'm taking that they would have suggested everybody wins. Whether everybody will win, we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to see at the end of the night. Dr. Megu?
Yeah, well, certainly, you remember Dr. Rowley when he first, I think it might have been his first interview, or one of his first interviews, was asked about his philosophy about equalizing income and so forth. And he said, no, he believes in the rich getting richer. And then even when he was given a chance to walk back or perhaps change the wording a bit, he doubled down on it. And that really has been the philosophy and of the Rowley government. And so our campaign, our proposal, our ideology is quite different. It's not just for the rich to get richer. We don't think that shrinking the income gap, which was the question that was asked him, is an old-fashioned idea, which is what Dr. Rowley said. Everybody should win. Everybody should win. The ministers of government should not be getting a 47% wage increase while the workers are told they can only get 4%. So that's our messaging right there.
Yeah. Before I bring in Mr. Hines, but Suniti, I wanted to get your perspective on it. The particular themes of the main political parties.
I think this election is a referendum on 3 leaders. Stuart Young, as the person who has come in to lead the People's National Movement in peculiar circumstances. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who is facing yet another test. But also Dr. Keith Rowley, because it was Dr. Rowley who triggered the circumstances that led to an election as early as this election. And that was a cascade of events. So we arrived at a point where the campaign for both parties started at a moment of when both parties were fracturing in terms of their support. And that's why the all-in came in, because it was recognizing that there was a challenge to the leadership of the incoming Prime Minister, who had not faced the membership of the party to become political leader. There was that division. It was almost half, 50% of the persons who voted for him did not vote for him, sorry, who asked in terms of the MPs, PNM MPs. So Dr. Rowley's own decision to trigger the circumstances leading to a vacancy in the office of the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister immediately calling an election, that decision is going to come under scrutiny depending on the outcome of this election tonight.
Yeah.
Also, the leadership of the campaign by the new Prime Minister, how that has played out, what his message is, the extent of preparation that would go into it. I mean, there would have been certainly quite enough time if you hadn't called the election as early as you did. Those are the questions. Again, if you win, then you were right. And if you didn't win, well, all the reasons in the world as to why. And then, of course, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, because she, at the same time that was going on in the PNM, she was scrambling. And there was a general view that, the PNM has caught the UNC with their pants down, as it were, because she was dealing with fracturing of key personnel. And then the question would be, when are you going to call your, name your candidates? And there was a whole instability among those two parties, and how they navigated that early period. When the UNC was dealing with those internal issues, the spotlight suddenly shifted from the UNC onto the PNM, which was dealing with its own internal issues. And by the time that it switched again, something happened in the UNC there. So the dynamics of this campaign I think have been quite unique, and therefore how that plays out in the results tonight is really the thing that will tell us a lot. But I don't know who is going to predict at this stage.
Yes.
In my view, any number can play.
Yeah.
Right? But there is definitely an energy that has been in this, a moving energy that has changed the course of the fortunes of one or the other party.
Yeah. Mr. Hines, I think that that the view that at the end of the night we are going to see if the message of the PNM has resonated with the electorate, in the context of that some people may see the PNM as the old PNM, but just different packaging now that you have Mr. Young as Prime Minister.
Well, Dr. Rowley had, in my view, carefully managed this process. Dr. Rowley had indicated at the night similar to tonight in 2020 that this would be his last. He did not intend to contest the seat, nor intend to be Prime Minister going forward from in 2025. Kamla Persad-Bissessar pretended for all of 2024 that that was an election year. The fact that we are having election in 2025 has dispelled her wishful self-protection. That was to avoid an internal leadership in the thing. And as Suniti has just indicated, up to the last hour, they did not resolve their candidate issues, and they were really fractured. 5 members of their parliamentary caucus had gone asunder. This is what she came into this election with.
Mr. Hines, if you could please hold your thoughts for a minute. We must go to Renessa Cutting again at the UNC headquarters.
Well, the night is still young, but the votes are steadily trickling in. And at this point in time, the UNC's board shows that it is ahead, leading the PNM in 4 constituencies. I'm joined now by Mr. Peter Kanhai, General Secretary of the UNC. Mr. Kanhai, how do you feel about the preliminary results thus far?
Okay. Well, good evening. We are feeling happy about what we are seeing so far, but then what you are seeing there are largely what we would call safe seats. If you notice, there are no results there from the real battleground constituencies as yet, except for maybe Shogunas East, where the UNC is well ahead, and Mayaro, where we are also well ahead. But we are confident about the mood of the population and where our campaign, we've run a very, very strategic campaign, a very clean campaign, where we've really focused on the people of Trinidad and Tobago and what we, the UNC and the UNC government, can do for Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, there are at least 8 standard marginal seats, but we are seeing some other seats coming into question as well. If you had to identify one seat that you feel will really swing the results either way, which seat would that be most critical?
We were looking very closely at the Aruca-Lupino seat, outside of the regular margin. Aruca-Lupino seat and some others. But of course, you know, the magic figure for any party in an election, in a general election, is 21 seats. That's what takes you over the threshold. But we are hoping, and we are quite quietly confident that we will get beyond that later on tonight, when the results really start coming in, right? But I must let you all know that today has been a really challenging day out on the field. In fact, I have a file in my hand. I had cause to pen almost 10 letters to the elections and boundaries on irregularities that were cropping up all over Trinidad, at least, right? So we had a lot of challenges today. In fact, we've had a lot of challenges throughout this campaign. Between the 3rd of April and today, I have had to sign probably about 35 letters, close to 40 letters that we were seeing. Today we had issues with even the police in some polling stations, where the police were kind of directing what was going on in a polling station, and we had to deal with that. Right? We had issues where deputy presiding officers and presiding officers were not initialing the ballots. And you will recall the Lengua Indian Walk debacle because of a lack of a signature on a ballot, right? So we had all those issues, and it were cropping up all over the place. I was getting the complaints from as far as Mayaro.
Any response from the ABC as yet as it pertains to any of the issues you would have raised today?
We got some cryptic responses from the EBC, right? But the polls are closed now. We hope that there's no extension. The polls are closed, and these are issues that we will be dealing with going forward, because we have to get our election process right.
But we do have Commonwealth and CARICOM observers in the countries. Do you all feel reassured by that?
Well, we met with both sets of observers during the last couple of days. We are happy that they are here, but usually observers would be in the country weeks before the election. These observers only came in a couple of days before in fact, they came in after nomination day and after special voting commenced, right? So I don't know how much they would have picked up. We did our duty. We presented them with dossiers. We gave the media as well dossiers of all the issues that we were raising throughout this campaign with the EBC.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kana. You all heard it directly from him. The UNC did have a number of concerns cropping up during the day, and they have written at least 10 letters to the ABC today alone. Now, of course, we would hope that everything is settled and that the election was free, fair and smooth, and that we don't have to have any recounts or any legal challenges moving forward. But of course, only time will tell. It's back to you in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Renessa. Mr. Hines, you were making a point.
So I have been asking myself all day today, what were the issues that emerged as real campaign issues? And you know, the issues of the economy, to me, it featured, but it was featured peripherally. It came because the UNC were making $18 billion worth of promises to the electorate, including we will develop and distribute 500 houses per week, when the history of Trinidad and Tobago at our highest with lots of money. Never got close to doing that. And starting the negotiations for public sector workers at 10%. So we were able, Minister Young and the PNM were able in short order to demonstrate that those were empty, unachievable promises. So while the economy was discussed in that context, it was peripheral to the issue of false promises. The issue of crime was also very peripheral. You heard the lady talking about knock it on them, rack it and clip it and wipe them out and all them foolish talk. No serious discussion about crime took place in this campaign. It came down to exactly as I think Suniti described. It came down to about who will provide the best leadership going forward. Remember, we were the government. We didn't have the luxury of criticizing and talking alone. We had to do. And we spent the last 10 years doing substantial things. Laurel Zama mentioned the management of the COVID-19 international crisis, stabilizing the economy when we realized that our gas supplies to keep our bread basket at Point Lisas, Plebdeco and the rest going, when we realized that the gas was, as a finite resource, depleting from our mature fields, we spent cerebral energy, vision, time, and political fine-stepping to negotiate a source of gas from outside of our borders. We did things, tangible things. We developed a whole lot of the buildings, including the Red House, highways. We did the business.
Yes.
All the time without a single sustainable argument against a minister of government. Because corruption is ever present in Trinidad and Tobago. Some people wrongly think that it is only about ministerial corruption. But in the last 10 years, there was no such thing. The issue of Marlene MacDonald arose before Dr. Rowley's time. He dealt with it in the way he dealt with it.
Yeah, Mr. Hines,
so I
must stop you again. We need to take some results from Urvashi. Urvashi?
Thank you, Marlon. So Chaguanas East, we're looking at Chaguanas East. Vandana Mohet appears to be in the lead with 2,665 votes compared with Richie Sukai of the PNM with 985. Across in Barataria San Juan, Dr. Mohammed Yunus Ibrahim of the PNM leads with 68 votes, Saddam Hussein with 66, but this is, of course, it looks like just one polling division. We did Tunapuna, Chaguanas West, Dr. Colin Neil Gosain, 8,768 votes. We don't have any information for Winston Mahabir, but I believe his number was just around 411. Couva South, Barry Padarath leads with 1,150 votes compared with Aaron Mohammed of the PNM with 211 votes. And a good point to make is that in some of those constituencies, whereas we would have had just a few ballot boxes being counted, we're not seeing those third parties garnering much votes, if any at all. I did see Stefan Boudram. He got, let's see, where was he? That was in Barataria San Juan. He got just 5 votes. I think I saw some, was it in San Fernando? Danielle Joseph, she got 1. Dr. Kevin Saran of the NTA, just 1. Even though it may have been just one polling division. No votes updated in Point Fortin. Tobago East looks just the same as we reported earlier. So also Tobago West. Yeah, that is about it. And of course, we'd like to find out, your panel's thoughts on these third parties. Is it that, this time around, this election, we're hearing everybody saying that, this is going to be a very close election. Does your vote carry more value now, Dr. Raghunath, that you won't use it on a third party because you probably realize that even if they win one seat, they wouldn't be able to govern the nation? Your thoughts?
Well, to be honest with you, the third parties have never really gotten off the ground, so to speak. We had third parties in 1981 with the ONR. We had it in 2007 with the COP. But like in both those instances, again, they garnered a lot of votes, but they weren't able to win seats per se. And that is the context in which people now are called upon. Are you going to vote for a third party which may get a certain amount of votes, but basically literally will be a spoiler in determining who will win that particular seat? Because if you take away 1,000 votes from one candidate who won, especially in the marginal seats, St. Joseph, for instance, San Fernando West, I mean, when you look at those seats, well, I don't know what Gary Griffith would have gotten in St. Joseph, in Arangua, St. Joseph, when we looked at the results earlier. But the point about it is that people would have been looking at those seats and asking themselves whether or not these third parties are really only there to assist a particular party rather than to win a seat. And more importantly, people see them as not necessarily winning seats. So for instance, when we looked, if I may go further and say, when we looked at the manifestos, for instance, the APP contested, 8 seats? And they presented a manifesto. But of course, even if they won all 8 seats, the question is, where would they take that manifesto? And it is in that context that when we look at even Gary Griffith saying that the NTA is not going to present a manifesto, but rather some way forward, because they know for a fact that they're not going to actually be part and parcel of being able to implement whatever their manifesto promises are.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mayhew, if I can just go to our reporter, Sharla Kisto. She's at the NTA headquarters. Good evening, Sharla.
Good evening, TV6 viewers. I'm coming to you live from the National Transformation Alliance headquarters located in Mount Lambert, and that's in the constituency of Aranguez St. Joseph. Now, this constituency, it is a marginal constituency where its political leader, that's the NTA political leader, Gary Griffith, he is contesting this seat along with 4 other candidates. Now, things are a little bit slow at the moment. It's a bit quiet here at the headquarters as well. But as the night unfolds, I will bring you guys more updates.
Thank you very much, Sharla. We are going to a very short break, everybody. We're coming back. Stay right there. All right, everybody, so thank you very much for staying with us. Welcome back. Let's go now to a report from our reporter, Cindy Raghubar Tika Singh.
We're in the Pinal constituency office of the opposition leader and incumbent MP for Siparia, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. It's a seat she has held for the last 3 decades and usually won by a wide victory margin. In 2020, she won by over 9,000 votes. Given the history of this particular constituency, there's no anxiety here over which party will take home the Siparia seat.
Well, first, let me thank Almighty God. We have had a very, very clean campaign, very strong campaign. I feel very confident of a very good result. Let me thank the people of Siparia. I'm in Siparia tonight. Let's thank Siparia. Thank you. And at this time, I can declare Siparia safely won. So I declare the first seat in this election, Siparia. As the results come in, we'll share with you. But the feedback thus far is very, very good. But I'd like to wait a little longer to get from some of the corridor seats. But the trend is looking very good for us. I think we are set to win this January election. So, thanks to everyone. I also thank all our coalition partners who played a great role in it. And the rank and file UNC membership never left my side and held me up when I was falling down. They were always there with me. So let's say thanks to them, UNC membership. Thank you very much. Okay.
We saw some of the initial counts showing TPP leading in Tobago. How is that feeling for you in terms of the overall outcome of the election?
The overall outcome is that we are going to win this general election. That's the overall outcome.
Yes.
Tobago is doing very well. Yes. And on our marginal corridor seats, the counting is coming in really good, really good.
Would a partnership with TPP be on the cards for the UNC?
I think you asked me that question the day of my vote today. Was it you or someone else? No. I always said that there are many rooms in the house of the rising sun. There's a space and place for everyone. We need to work together to build Trinidad and Tobago. So all are welcome. All will be welcome. We have to rebuild this country together. Okay, thank you all. I'll go up to the other place in a while. But thanks for coming, South people. So thank you all.
All right, so thank you very much for that report, Cindy Raghubar Tika Singh. Dr. Megu, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar seems very confident.
Yes, well, she has every reason to be. And, so we'll see as the results come in. There's every reason to be optimistic on our part.
Dr. Raghunath, I wonder if it's, and I'm not asking you to declare any winner.
Definitely, I will not.
Right. But what I'm asking you to do really is to look at some of the moving parts concerning this general election here. All right. Again, we do have a new prime minister. And I think that some people would have had the argument, well, we don't know him very well, right? Yes, we know him as a politician. We know him as an attorney. He would have served in national security, energy. He's now the prime minister. All right. And then you do have, and we did speak about these smaller parties. And there has always been a view, well, here's what, these smaller parties are going to split some of the votes. And some constituencies that may have been seen as safe in the past, they're no longer safe because of the whittling down, if I can put it that way, of votes in these constituencies. We have seen what would have transpired within the United National Congress. Of course, Dr. Megu may say, well, that's a small thing. But to supporters of the United National Congress, I suspect that there may have been some concern about them as to what we would have seen with people like Anita Haynes and Mr. Parry and Mr. Rambali and so on. All right, and of course the PNM has its own issues. So when you look at all of these things, when you put it in the pot, some people have said it's going to be a close race. I suspect the bigger parties believe, as the opposition leader has said, she believes that they are going to win the election right out. What do you see?
Well, I would have started off by saying that this is going to be a close race. And
yes.
I tell you why. Because of when you look at the marginal constituencies, I mean, I expect the PNM to hold on to their strongholds, the UNC to hold on to their strongholds. Kamla Persad-Bissessar declared Siparia, well, that was a foregone conclusion. But the point about it is that when you look at the marginal constituencies, there was that great fight for the marginal constituencies. And that fight continued until today, when we heard of all the various allegations about this one wanting to pay for votes, that one wanting to pay for votes, and so on. So that is the context in which, when you look at those 8 or 10 marginal constituencies, they will determine the election. As to whether or not all of these moving parts, as you call it, for instance, with regard to the UNC and their dissidents, well, of course, their dissidents proved the party right when you had Anita Haynes and Dinesh Rambali going on a PNM platform. Because from the time they said that, well, you see, the UNC is going to say, well, we were right about them all the time. So, and in a way, try to consolidate their membership in saying, we were right, and look at them, they have gone. As opposed to the PNM, when we talk about the leadership of the PNM, there's no way the PNM, Stuart Young, as Prime Minister today could distance himself from the last 10 years. I mean, he has said it over and over. Well, we were on training. But saying you were on training while in government doesn't necessarily, I mean, Mr. Hines spoke earlier that they were doing while they were in government and they could not respond. But the point about it is that you were part and parcel of a government and you cannot distance yourself from a lot of the things. In coming now to the population and say, well, we have the ideas of how to deal with crime. We have the ideas now of how to deal with the economy and all of those things. Those are questions that people in general would want to ask themselves. But wait a minute, you were in government for the last 10 years. In 2020, when we looked at the 2020 election, one of the things that the people would have said that in 2020, the PNM ran away with that election in terms of campaigning because they kept on blaming the UNC. The UNC had left the country in such a poor state and we had to rebuild it from scratch until we got to this point. And that's why we were in that position in 2020. But 10 years later, you can't blame the UNC. And the question that a lot were resonated in a lot of people's minds was simply, but you all were in government. Why didn't you do all of these things all the time that you are now saying that we are going to be doing? And that, I think, is one of the critical factors in determining how people may have voted. The other thing we have to really understand too is that Trinidad and Tobago has not recovered from COVID. Economically, there's still a lot of economic challenges and hardships that people are facing. And when, for instance, in fact, early on I heard the UNC making the statement, are you better off now than you were in 2015? They didn't take that down to the wire. They didn't carry that argument down to the wire. But they raised it earlier on in the campaign. And to that extent, that remains a telling issue. Are you better off not necessarily only economically, but in terms of the crime situation, in terms of the entire society? And those were some of the things that I think would have played on the minds of a lot of people, both within the PNM, within the UNC, as well as some of the people who are neither supporters of both parties.
Vishnu is right to say that we didn't hammer on that in the campaign, in this short campaign we had, because we have been meeting with the people at least twice, sometimes 3 times a week for years, doing our Monday nights, our Thursday night pavement reports, our press conferences, and we've been pushing these issues, meeting with the people, talking with them constantly, and one of the things that when people talk about the UNC, the media in particular, the media has got it wrong forever. I remember even when the UNC started and the first election in 1991, I remember the headline on the Express. It was like the NAR was going to get 20 and the PNM 17 and the UNC 3 or something like that. Because the Port of Spain-centric media, it is Port of Spain-centric, does not understand the rest of the country. And so even for the 5 dissidents, which people made a big deal of, they were never on our platforms. They never look at their parliamentary contributions. They were not a big part of the party. They took no one with them. It's not like Ramesh when he left, or Jack, or Kelvin Ramnath. Those were serious rifts in the party. This was nothing of the sort. And this is why it really had no effect. We were mobilizing and raising the issues, and people were very conscious of these things, so that it was very repetitive if we were to say, well, the PNM dropped the economy by 20%. We were one of the worst performing countries in terms of COVID. We ranked 172 out of 195 countries. The crime rate, historic highs in 2022, 2023, 2024, were the 3 highest murder rates we ever had in this country. I mean, we had beaten those points ad nauseum. Everybody knew that. And so that when the PNM would come to try to give their spin on it, everybody knew it was ridiculous. And so we instead came up with a positive program and we launched our manifestos and we had our positive slogan of when the UNC wins, everybody wins. And so that's what we were concentrating on in the past 3 weeks.
I know that Mr. Hines is salivating to respond, but I want Ms. Haddad to come in here because I think, Ms. Haddad, over and over we're hearing about promises and promises and promises, and I think that sometimes the promises just don't are realized. You think that the population is losing faith in the politician and politics and what they are offering?
Well, there is an old saying, a promise is a comfort to a fool. So I think we as a people need to get beyond that. But more importantly, when people ask us to hire them, because they are, and I want our people to start to change their mindset. These people are applying for jobs. They are applying for jobs and asking us to give them a 5-year contract. And this is what they will deliver in the 5 years. We as a people must start to accept that and therefore recognize our role. And we have to keep them accountable. Now, I'm going to use our experience in Tobago because that's why I am happy to quarrel if I have to. I'm also happy to praise the people if they do. So when we experienced the fiasco with the boats and so, and I mean, it was not a nice time. It was an awful experience for Tobago, for business, and for me personally, it was awful. I actually became a platform bubbly between both the UNC and the PNM at the time, both unjustified, right? I was used in a UNC campaign the last time in an ad that I never gave permission for, where clips from the television were used, and then Dr. Rowley responded on the platform without doing any investigations, right? So having experienced that myself, but because of the stance I take in whatever it is I am doing, I'm one of those people who have allegiance to nobody, right? I am going to sit and levelly think this through, and I'm going to decide who I hire in for my next 5 years. That's the decision I make as a citizen. So because of that, that is not something that is cast in stone that I want this one or that one. There's no preference. It is about delivery to the people. I want to live in an environment that is comfortable. I am a hard worker. I am happy to work. So I want to live in an environment that has opportunity, honestly, not where I have to bribe anybody or get a kickback or do whatever. So it is from there that all these promises that are made, people like me would sit, and that's I guess the batch of people we speak about, logically trying to figure out, are we in a position to really get this? Can it be delivered within this period? Or do I have to go now and do like we did the last time and make TV and be very popular here every morning with Fazir at the time, and on CNC3 as you run from here and we make a noise and writing letters? Is that what we have to do to get delivery? And that is where, to me, this whole thing comes down. Where is the big plan for our island, our twin island? And how are we going to execute it regardless of who sits in those chairs? And the promises should be more, not promises, because some of them are, both sides, you have to question, how are we doing it, right? And then there were some things, even in the PNM side, where all of a sudden, within days, we could have resolved things that were on the table for years, causing conflict, causing hurt, but it was not addressed. So I'm talking about like the barrier things, you know, right between there. All of a sudden, we could fix things within this time. It looks weak. It looks weak to us. Well, at least to us who have a brain and willing to use it. those things look weak. Coming to promise us the world on the other hand, and although they sound attractive, I mean, a lot of them I want, but can we afford it? So you're sitting there trying to do the maths in all of it and trying to figure out who will best bring the country to that environment for you. So the promises, I think where the big issue has come from is that whoever is going up and asking us to hire them, I think they need to be much more accountable. They must have more credibility. They must come from a place that when they are there and come out of there, they can walk the streets without us having to literally tear at them however we feel. I think that for me is important. So integrity is what is lost. And not just in politics, it's lost right through the country. And Dr. Mayhew spoke about the 5 dissidents and the things that we cast people aside. I am going to say tonight that I find that statement quite reckless. Those people serve the party, and how could we now just trash them like that? That is not right. You know, Mr. Parry, for instance, a man who serves well. I have sat on a joint select committee with him. Excellent individual in terms of how he conducts himself and whatever. We must not do those things. That's where we are tearing. What did they not stand for? Let us look at the election campaign. All of a sudden, Mr. Jeremy jumps from one side to the next. You know, it was really Easter time. The bunnies were hopping all over, right? It was really an Easter experience. And all of those things says a lot. So is it that I'm standing for something that when it doesn't go my way, I walk? Is it that when we can't get our own way? Or is it that when the party now has changed its direction on me, that I now stand for what's right? And I think I have a problem with people just trashing people when they stand up. Or why are we jumping when we don't get our way? So I think that was a big point too. So we the citizens, Marlon, we have to recognize our role. And we have a lot of power and we don't use it because we want the easy way out.
As a former independent senator, your perspective? Well, earlier we were having a discussion about voting. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I was expressing to you, that it would seem to me that the younger people are not very interested in politics, in the politician, in political parties. I would have said earlier that a lot of them are involved in entrepreneurship, doing things for themselves, don't have to really depend on the politician for certain things. I'm sure the politician will say, well, we are putting the infrastructure and we have put the infrastructure in place for you to do these things. But is the pattern of voting, you think, changing?
Well, I think youth apathy is a problem not only for us, but it may be a condition of youth. It may be that unless you tap a vein in the young people that brings them alive and they can see that this is critical to my future, if you're not speaking to them in a way that is highly relevant, you're not going to get them. Mm-hmm. They're going to say, I don't have time for that. I am busy trying to make a life for myself. I have things to do. And there is, of course, a serious extent of cynicism in that if you've got change over and over, you're changing parties, you're changing faces, and you don't feel that there has been a fundamental shift in the quality of your life, you start to opt out. And so it is the responsibility of whoever forms a government to make that difference that they promise real for people. And so young people, and people talk a lot about youth. You hear in the campaign that has gone on that I'm reaching the youth and so on. What are you talking about? That you are building them into your campaign, but how are you specifically addressing the youth condition? And we know the youth problem is it's jobs. It is a clear path to their future. It is, and the economy is changing. This whole thrust towards diversification, young people are creating their own jobs. And they want an economic environment and a financial environment that supports them when they now take a computer and they're trying to sell something or offer a service to somebody somewhere, that the financial system is ready and is there to support that, to carry them from the gig economy into a real business. And if they're not getting those kinds of things, they're just going to say, I'm not even bothering to find out who's the prime minister.
Yeah.
Right?
Mr. Hines?
Well, you know, this is the point. In fact, the 2020 elections demonstrated a higher participation of young people. This election, in that sense, was no different. We have seen young people coming on board, young people coming into government. They're 2/3, 80% of our team are young people. Stuart Young, as a young man, professional, attorney at law, he's come into the PNM. He exerted very, very good energy and effort. Today, he's the Prime Minister of the Republic, and I anticipate that beyond tonight, he will continue as Prime Minister. We established, to answer your point, a special ministry for the young people between the ages of 10 and 35, and from all of the reports to the Parliament and in front of our eyes, that ministry, which I established the policy and put some of those programs in place. Foster Cummins carried on to great admiration. We have done a tremendous amount of improvement in the lives of these young people, creating the very opportunities that Suniti has spoken about. In addition to that, the Ministry of Digital Transformation, a lot of the digitization and digitalization that you see taking place across the government spectrum at the moment is being created by young people in Trinidad and Tobago. So there has been a response to the young people. So I think this election came down to the question of who do you trust? And someone mentioned the word integrity here. It featured very significantly in people's minds. The question of integrity, the question came down to who do you trust to lead this country from the difficult space that the world and Trinidad and Tobago is in going forward. And I suspect that the young people will demonstrate tonight where that would grow. And Dr. Rowley, a shrewd politician who I've had the opportunity to watch closely for the last 30 years, on the final night of the rally, what did he do? I think he sensed exactly this. I didn't speak to him, you know, but I think he sensed exactly this. And he did a comparison of Stuart Young, simple so, and Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And it was most telling. So the question came down to integrity and who do you trust? And the answers are as clear as today is Elections Day 2025.
Yeah.
Clear.
And the proof will be in the pudding at the end of the evening.
Yes, because at that conversation, Mr. Hines, he actually was speaking to a PNM crowd.
No, he was speaking to the country and the world.
But the persons who would have been there would have been the party's supporters.
Yeah,
because by that time, wait, let me finish, the UNC would have had their supporters by then. So he couldn't be trying to sway them. That was off the table. And therefore, you're probably trying to reach the persons in the middle, like myself, who's sitting down trying to work out, okay. But I'm saying, to get to this youth thing that we're talking about, one thing I want us to be wary of, that the youth's interests is not because we have had such a lousy status quo or system that it is now popular to go in to governments or want to be in government or in politics because you're going to get rich quick. I hope that is not what we are attracting the youth to. That is my concern.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we must go to a very short break. We're coming back, everybody.
There is a...
All right, so welcome back, everybody, and thank you very much for staying with us. We do have some results for you. Urvashi has them. Urvashi?
Thank you, Marlon. Well, you know, the checkered is starting to disappear, and we're starting to see color on Trinidad. Tobago has been like that from the very beginning. But of course, according to former National Security Minister Hines, you know, he did say it's still very early in the game. He sat here 5 years ago when the whole map was yellow, and then it suddenly started to flip. So it's maybe a little too early to call, but we did hear the opposition leader. She called her seat the Siparia seat with 9,565 votes. Now, let me just reflect a little bit on 2020. In that election, she got 13,487 votes. So she feels comfortable at 9,565 to call that seat. She also called the Chaguanas West seat with 16,702 votes in the favor of Dr. Colin Neil Gosain, while Winston Mahaber of the PNM, he got 879 votes. So that would be a significant and an intelligent call, because 16,702 of the 28,881 electorate would be a sort of 60% turnout, over 60% turnout within that seat. So it would be safe to call that seat. She also called the Urupooch East seat. Unfortunately, we don't have information on that just yet, but across in Urupooch West, we're seeing Dr. Lakram Bodo. He currently leads with 1,584 votes, compared with Sean Tube with 664. Some more information coming out of Mayaro. That gap has closed up a bit. We're seeing Nicholas Morris with 1,700 plus votes, while Beatrice Bridgelal of the PNM, 1,400 plus votes. So that gap has closed a bit. Toko Sandy Grande, some say it's marginal votes so far. We're seeing Wayne Sturge, 957 votes. Roger Monroe, 741 votes. I'm not seeing, Lebre, another one. Randall Mitchell, 782 votes. Clyde Elder, 440 votes. So Marlon, we'll continue to, process the information as it comes in. Across in Naparima, Dr. Narendra Rupnarayan has got 4,254 votes, compared with Sarah Nangu of the PNM with 489 votes. So let's just get a quick tally here. Right. So the PNM leads in 5 seats, while the UNC currently leads in 13 seats. We're seeing the TPP in Tobago leading with 1 seat. So that's a synopsis of what has happened so far. We've got our data entry persons, Marlon, across the country, particularly in the marginals. Now they're waiting on the ballot boxes to come in from those polling divisions, where the returning officer will accept those statements from those agents of the EBC, and then she will declare, once she has tallied all of that, she or he will declare, once she's tallied all of that, who is the winner of that particular seat. That has not happened so far. We're getting information, it's coming in trickle by trickle. As I mentioned before, we're dealing with accuracy, so we're waiting on the information to come directly from those returning officers. So that's a synopsis of where we are thus far.
Churbashi. All right, so let's go to Tobago now. We do have this report from Elizabeth Williams.
And I am here with the PNM Tobago Council political leader, Ansel Dennis. And before he gave us an immediate reaction, what I can say is immediate results coming in for Tobago West. The PNM's Shamfa Kajo, 2,220 votes. And the TPP's Joel Sampson, 1,968 votes. And there is also results coming in for the East so far, with David Thomas ahead of the PNM's Ayana Webster Roy. Mr. Dennis, tell us, what are your feelings thus far? It is, in terms of initial results, that the PNM might have lost the Tobago East seat.
Yes, it appears so, although we don't have confirmed results at this point in time. It is certainly not my happiest election night, as we went into this expecting to win both Tobago seats. and so far the signals are showing that we will not win Tobago East. I think Tobago West is still yet to be confirmed.
What do you think might have accounted for this?
Well, it's difficult to see that at this point. I mean, the voter turnout was very low, extremely low, based on my initial investigations. There seemed to have been a high level of voter apathy on both sides. We clearly were not able to excite enough voters to come to the polls, and the TPP as well were not able to excite a high number of voters to come to the polls. So it appears as if people simply decided to withdraw participation from this particular general election.
Throughout the day, we saw like a steady voter turnout in terms of a number of people going to the various polling areas. What is your view on that?
Well, at certain times in the day, you're going to have a steady flow, especially early mornings when our seniors like to come out to vote that time. And then sometimes during the day, it comes down to a trickle. And then you have that surge again in the afternoon between 4 to 6. But I think what matters really is the overall voter turnout. And so far, as I said, my initial indications, without having the final figures available at this time, it appears to be extremely low.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. I am Elizabeth Williams, and we will give you another update coming out of Tobago, and it's back to you in studio.
All right, and thank you very much, Elizabeth Williams. Ms. Haddad, I want to bring in you almost immediately. Your analysis as to what we are hearing re Tobago East.
Well, I off the bat will answer you that if I were to look back at the 21-year stint of the PNM having Tobago in the palm of its hands, and it didn't matter what was said, coming particularly down to the last 2 terms, that of a London-led team devastated the island by not listening. Even to Mr. Manning, he didn't listen. And I want to say that that being the case, there would have been a serious flip as we saw in the THA election. However, what you are seeing tonight is exactly the vibe you get on the ground. People are very disappointed in the, I don't want to call it, into the PDP turned TPP, less Watson Duke, right? Persons are, and well, I get it, I get the confirmation tonight as to my analysis all the time, that people are now unhappy with what has been happening on the island, or should I say not happening, and therefore, this is it now. The place is so small that you have to be wary as to whether, because if you vote, and that comes across that you did not vote for the winning party, your job is in jeopardy. There's a lot of vindictiveness, and I used the word earlier, on the island. So when people came into power, like the TPP, they fired a lot of people and sent them home who are perceived PNM. And I want to suspect that this is what has come out here tonight now.
Yeah.
So persons, I don't want you, but afraid to go out there and vote because my bread and butter on the line. This is very, very clear for me. I feel so confident about what I say, but it is very sad.
Yeah, Mr. Hines, not what the PNM wanted.
Well, certainly as far as I'm concerned, but I've listened and prepared to wait to see what happens on the ground there. I'm just hearing about, as he indicated, Mr. Dennis indicated, a very low voter turnout. I've heard some rationale from Madam Haddad about it, so we wait to see.
Yeah. Mr. Raghunath, I would want you to chime in on this, but we do have some further results from Urvashi. Urvashi?
Yes, Marlon. So in Princestown, Dr. Aina Ali, she's leading with 6,230 votes compared to Rocklin Mohammed of the PNM, his 1,755 votes. Now, Urpuj East, the opposition leader, would have declared that seat in favor of her party. Dr. Rudal Munilal, he garnered 8,283 votes compared with Richard Ragber, his 830 votes. course, yeah. That is about it from us. As we heard from Liz, the TPP appears to be in the lead. Unofficial information reaching me is that the TPP is to soon hold a press conference to declare those 2 seats, so we'll look out for that.
2 seats, or is it just Tobago East?
I'm hearing it's the 2.
All right, Dr. Raghunath?
Well, the thing about it is that if Tobago has gone, now, when we looked at the THA results 2021, the December results, what we noticed between the January election and the December election, that the PNM had lost significant percentage of the votes. The voter turnout had remained literally the same, but when you looked at what happened in January and what happened in December, there was clearly a shift away from the PNM into then it was the PDP. As to whether or not and what was also interesting here, is that Mr. Duke did not get any traction in Tobago East, where I think the PNM was hoping that with the Tobago East, he could have been the spoiler. Yeah, the spoiler to allow the PNM to slip in. But clearly the Tobago people have rejected Mr. Duke per se. And if they now lose the Tobago West seat, well then that tells us that Tobago has decided to, low voter turnout, one thing, but they have shifted totally away from the PNM. Well, from the figures that that we got from Mr. Dennis, clearly yes. If he is saying that with 4,000 votes in Tobago East, they are saying that, or 5,000 votes, and that they are already declaring that they have lost that or conceding, bearing in mind that in 2020, it was about 8,000, about 12,000 votes in that constituency, people who had voted in that constituency.
Because they're both about 13,000.
Yeah.
So did you have any view on what is happening in Tobago?
That would be a huge drop in voter turnout. Yes. And because you would have had more people not vote, then it will be a real minority win. And you'd have to explain that. The position that we've got from her is that people are scared and did not come out to vote. Or there may be other reasons. It may be just simply apathy. There was a great excitement about the TPP, and it broke, not the TPP, the PDP,
yes.
Is it, right? And they broke up, and they're still to recover from that heartbreak. So it may not necessarily, it could be, but I don't know. But there may be many reasons for why so many people would not vote. That is not a normal situation.
Yeah. Studio, can we go to? Yeah, we are going to. We expect to go to a report from the PNM headquarters. All right. All right. So we are on standby as we're looking to see some mics being put up and a table being put up at this time. Yeah. But Dr. Megu, there has always been a question as to why the UNC is not contesting seats in Tobago. And every election that comes up, you usually hear the party opposed to the UNC saying, well, here's what, the UNC is working with this particular party and this particular individual. And I think that it is safe to say for a number of years now, the UNC has not done that, and there's no really softening in this position. Why?
Well, I think it really comes down to a difference in philosophy. The UNC has always recognized the diversity of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And then in this particular case, between the people of Trinidad and the people of Tobago. And we've always respected that. And this is something that even predates the UNC with the ACGC DLP, and then later on with the UNC NAR. And the UNC has always supported the people of Tobago choosing their destiny. And that has been part of our philosophy, as opposed to, a lot of times people treat Tobago as though it is just a part of Trinidad, like any other part of Trinidad. But it's not. It has an entirely different history. 300 years before, I mean, we were joined in 1889, but before that they had Dutch governors. We never had Dutch governors. They had French governors. We never had French governors. They had representative government since the 17th century. We didn't have that. There is and the whole sociology, the kind of Protestant history of Tobago is very different from the Catholic and then later Hindu history of Trinidad. It's a very culturally different place, and we've respected that. And Lloyd Best had a great, in his very famous...
All right, Dr. Megu,
sure.
if you could just hold your thoughts. Let's go to that.
It's now 9:40 p.m. As you are aware, the polls closed at 6 p.m. with some lines being long and therefore voting actually not stopping until after 6:30 p.m. Our numbers have been very, very slow in coming in. Similarly, with the EBC's website, the updates coming from the EBC has also been very slow. In our system, we have very preliminary numbers here so far. And we are not in a position to declare any seats whatsoever. We are in the lead in a number of seats. However, in 20 minutes' time, our political leader and members of our leadership will come and address you and answer all questions that you may have. So at 10 p.m., you can look forward to members of our leadership coming out here this evening to speak with you further. If you have any preliminary questions that I may be able to answer, I will be very happy to do so, but our leadership will come and give you answers at 10 p.m. Mr. Brown. Yes? So for instance, Arima, which is a traditional PNM stronghold, in our preliminary numbers here, we have 669 votes. And we can't declare a seat on 669 votes. The other parties have 69 votes, for instance. So we will not be able to declare that seat because we anticipate there will probably be 10,000 more votes to come forward here to be cast. So. Yes. We have had in 2020, because of the COVID, things had been very slow as well. So I'm not surprised that information is still slow in coming. This is not an anomaly. Information has been traditionally slow to come in. Yes. Yes. So based on this, for instance, in Moruga Tabelon, the two numbers, one party has 3,600, one party has 3,800. So we can't make any declaration on that. But as I said, it's very early still. Our numbers are coming in. We are also monitoring the EBC site to compare with the numbers that are coming in from our respective agents. But at 10 o'clock, the leadership of the party will address all of you. Yes? Okay? Thank you all so very, very much.
Laura Lezama speaking to members of the media there. Suditi, and I pose this question to you because so many years I've covered elections. I've never seen an occurrence such as this, where you have on election night, an official of a party is saying, well, here's what. We do have preliminary results at this time. The results are very slow in coming in. And you do have the leadership of a political party coming to speak to members of the media.
Mm-hmm. Well, there may be reason for that because EBC figures may be coming in slow, but your polling clerks may have the information that they're feeding directly to you. So if you're following the live coverage from the UNC page, you will see figures that we have not even begun to get here because the parties have their information, the pipeline. So I'm very eager to hear what the leadership has to say, because
yeah.
it would be very unusual at this stage to come and address the country.
You spoke about leadership, but I mean, is that Keith Rowley? Is that Stuart Young? I mean, this raises a question too, because if they do, the political leader,
She was specific.
right? Yeah, and because it raises questions too as to if the PNM are in opposition, who will be the leader of opposition? We saw the 11-9 split in Tobago when with Penelope Beckles and Stuart Young. So these questions arise because it's not automatic, because the leader of the PNM is not in Parliament. So that's a very, very serious question.
Dr. Raghunathan, is that surprise on your face? Is that interest
What?
on your face?
No, it's interest. It's interest in my, because, I mean, I know the PNM has gone into the election campaign with Stuart Young as the prime ministerial candidate. And I would expect that should the party concede, that Stuart Young will lead the party into the parliament, even as opposition leader. So yes, it is concerned that as to whether or not the political leader is there or not, and whether or not, and it also depends to Kirk on who are the other victors within the PNM, whether they see themselves as able to effectively challenge Stuart Young for leadership, not necessarily immediately, but Dr. Rowley did say that as of tomorrow his retirement starts. So I don't know whether his retirement starts as political leader also once they come through an election. That was his statement after casting his vote this morning.
Yeah. All I can suggest
Yes.
is for the time being on that score, you be patient. Because
Wait until 10 o'clock.
Yes. Wait until tomorrow, until he makes his next move. But I'll tell you this, just for the benefit of your listeners, when Dr. Rowley, by his resignation, created a vacancy in the Parliament for the office of Prime Minister, we knew, as everyone in the country does, given its presence in the Constitution, that Her Excellency would look not in the party, not in the General Council, not in the party, but in the Parliament, to determine who among us would be able to command the majority so as to declare that person the Prime Minister. What we did, given that we had a majority, we were in the government, we decided that we will work together to decide who that person would be, and when Her Excellency makes the inquiry, we would easily indicate who that person was. Just a moment, please, just a moment. So we went to Tobago to conduct this affair, and Dr. Rowley indicated early that he would not participate in the process, so as to avoid anyone saying that he had a horse in the race or all of that. He did not participate in the process, and he asked two questions. I'm just saying this again for the benefit of your viewers and listeners. The first question was, who among you, the parliamentary team under the Constitution, the body that will make this decision, as happened when George Chambers was made Prime Minister upon the death and the vacancy created by virtue of that death by Dr. Williams. May he rest in peace. And the first question Dr. Rowley asked, who among you would like or would want your name to be considered for offering to Her Excellency as President? And two persons only put up their hand. Two persons. The next question was, in a secret ballot, who do you, the caucus, the parliamentary caucus, decide, members of the House of Representatives as per Constitution, who would you support? It is in that context that one person got 11 votes and the other person got 9.
Yes.
And beyond that, we all had previously and at that time expressed our agreement with that process. And therefore, when the time came and the vacancy was created, and Her Excellency was advised accordingly.
Yes.
That's the process,
that's
in accordance with the Constitution.
Yeah. Dr. Migo, I know you want to respond,
Right.
but we must take some results from Urvashi. Urvashi?
Thank you, Marlon. So we were just talking about the Tobago duo. Well, the information we have is that Shamfa Kudjo-Lewis, 3,922 votes compared to Joel Sampson, 3,924 votes, a difference of just 2. But of course, Liz Williams, based in Tobago, just sent updated results. Now, when we are given these updated results, we aren't actually told how many polling divisions have been counted thus far, but her updated results reflects that Shamfa Kudjo-Lewis is back in the lead with 4,622 compared to Joel Sampson of the TPP, 4,469, a difference of just below 200 votes. She, of course, sent also updated Tobago East results, PNM 2,128, but the TPP is leading by 3,312. As you know, Mr. Hines mentioned a short while ago, we're still very early in the game, though our map looks predominantly yellow. We're not sure at the end of tonight how the results would go. So it's our job to, update you as the information comes in. Interestingly, I did hear Laurel a short while ago speak about the EBC's website. I wasn't aware that the EBC updates information on their website, polling information. This is news to me. I just tried to log onto their website and it seemed to be crashed. I couldn't access their website at all, so that will be something to look into. We also got some more information. Here's a Caroni Central. Dr. David Lee leads with over 6,000 votes compared to Adam Hussein's 966 votes. We also got information coming from La Hokata Talparo, which for now puts Philip Watts in the lead with 6,796 votes compared to Foster Cummings, 4,753. The turnout from the votes thus far is 40%, but traditionally, Dr. Raghunath, we expect in this election it to be just over 60% the voter turnout. So we do also have some outstanding ballots to be counted. I think that may be just it from me for the updates. We did speak about Urpuch East, but we got confirmed figures, 8,283 for Dr. Munilal, Richard Ragbir, 830. That seems to be it for now.
All right.
Marlon?
Thank you very much, Urvashi. Dr. Migo, I know you want to jump in here, but we do have a statement from the political leader of the NTA, Gary Griffith.
Good evening to members of the media, to citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and definitely, last but not least, to the candidates of the National Transformation Alliance, to the supporters, the members, well-wishers, family and friends of the National Transformation Alliance. We are now getting the initial results. This is our first general election, and the results will show that the country is not yet ready or prepared for a third choice, for a third option, and that is fine. I will ask all the supporters of the National Transformation Alliance, this is not a time for us to be despondent. It is not a time for us to have any degree of animosity at the country. The country has made a choice, and we must respect it. Since 1981, we started with this perception of a third party. That was with the ONR, and they did not get a seat. In 1991, it continued with the NAR on their own, breaking away from the UNC, of which Kamla Persad-Bissessar was a part of, and they didn't get a seat. Same thing happened with the Congress of the People. What we did is provided to the country, 18 years later, an option for a third choice other than the PNM or the UNC. And what we will probably hear for the next 5 years, regardless of who might win and who might lose, the PNM and UNC, one will be government, one will be opposition. People will criticize and complain and say they're fed up of both parties, but it does not change. 99% of the voting would have shown that they have stuck to the status quo. They have stuck to the concept of they are going to hold on to that base support. And I said there's nothing, I am not going to criticize anyone for this. The PNM and the UNC have done tremendous work to assist in the development of Trinidad and Tobago. They have made mistakes. Whoever is going to be in government, they may also make mistakes. I ask all of you, all of the NTA, understand that political parties and the supporters, they are not the enemy. I think for far too long we have seen the country being divided by politicians and political parties because of the hate, the animosity, the bitterness, in a deliberate attempt to divide the country to get into power. We have not done that. The NTA, we have tried to unite Trinidad and Tobago, and we will continue to provide that opportunity and give that, that choice for citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Probably if Barack Obama decides to lead a third party, he might lose his deposit as well. That is just the way it is in Trinidad and Tobago. And similar to other countries, in the United States, the same thing with the Democrats and the Republicans, and people will criticize both. I wish to thank the media for giving us the opportunity to show the options that the country had. You all were very independent, you were very impartial, you gave us that choice. Thank you very much. I think no one can actually question the caliber of the candidates of the NTA. You all are second to none. Most of you all, if you all had these individuals going up for probably any other seat for any of the two major parties, they would have done just as well, if not even better than most of the other candidates, because there was quality stuff. The manifesto that we had, if you all could go onto ChatGPT, you have seen when what the layout we had of everything was, again, second to none. So we had the policies, we had the plans, we had the principles, we had the political will, but we just did not have that opportunity for citizens to break away from that PNM or UNC till they die. And it happens. And sometimes it is because of that fear factor that if I want a third choice, but if I vote for that third choice, it will be seen as splitting of the votes. It may cause the other side to get in. And sometimes the hate and fear of that other choice, that other party, may cause persons to go back to the status quo. And that is fine. I hope whoever gets in government, that you do well. It is our job as citizens of this great country to support and respect whoever is going to be the next government. We've seen it going in a certain direction. The country has been, as I said, divided for far too long. So to all members of the NTA, especially to the candidates, lift your heads up, cheer up. You all have done well. Thank you very much for serving Trinidad and Tobago and giving you the opportunity. We had a good time. I'm sure you all enjoyed it. I certainly had a great time.
All right, the political leader of the NTA there, Gary Griffith. At this time, we are waiting on a statement from the political leader of the United National Congress, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and also at 10 o'clock, we expect to go to a statement from the People's National Movement. Dr. Megu, I know that you had a point that you wanted to make for a long time now.
Well, I mean, there's many points, but I want to say that I welcome and applaud Gary Griffith for his statement. I think it was a very good statement, and with that, you know, Fitzgerald Hines is not my enemy. We are opponents. But not enemies. Right? I would definitely say that. Yes.
I'm happy to hear.
You can afford to. But you can afford to be very magnanimous.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, I'm liking how the map looks.
Especially when you consider that we took a pass at Rodney Charles and them.
Oh yeah,
I'm very fortunate.
Just to tell our viewers that things are really changing by the seconds, by the minute. All right, so as I said, we do have a statement from the political leader of the UNC for you, and also we are going to hear from the People's National Movement very soon. But Dr. Raghunath, why you think, because for a while now we've been speaking about this third party, this other choice. We have seen, or we did see, some sort of success by the smaller parties during the local government election. And I think that Gary Griffith would have thought, and thought so rightly, that his popularity, let's say as the former police commissioner of Trinidad and Tobago, would have translated in this general election. That has not happened.
It has not happened for several reasons. To a large extent, the UNC campaign, they would not necessarily admit it, but the UNC would have campaigned that the Gary Griffith was the PNMB team in St. Joseph. And to that extent, that they were going to get people not to vote for Gary Griffith and the NTA. The other members of the NTA who would be contesting seats throughout the country, they were very weak. Gary Griffith himself was the one. And I mean, some people would have suggested that, I think when he made a speech in San Grande, somebody wrote me and said, but why is it only I? Which was basically the NTA was Gary Griffith and Gary Griffith is the NTA. So in that context, that would have been one of the issues. As to the issue of third parties, again, the majority of Trinidad and Tobago's population, when you look at it, if you say that the PNM has a 30% base, the UNC has a 30% base, that means that third party is going to have to try to take people from either of these bases as well as get people who were voting outside the base. I mean, Marsha,
Diego Martin.
The NTA Diego Martin candidate, Walker. Marsha had said that I am not taking anybody from the UNC or the PNM. It is the 15,000 people who never vote for either PNM or UNC that I want them to vote for me. But that never really come to pass.
I want to just add in, in looking at the stats, because I mean, where I come from is also from the outside tradition, in a sense. I saw in 2020, we had 20 independents and parties that were other than the UNC and PNM, and it was like Jack Warner and Watson Duke and Nikolai Edwards and all kind of, the COP was there, and they didn't even get 5%. They didn't even get 5% of the vote. The UNC and PNM got over 95 together. In 2015, it was similar. They got over 90%. The country seems to have solidified into a two-party system like many countries around the world. And people, practically in politics, you basically have to make your choice between two parties. And that's where we've seemed to have evolved. Things can change in the future, but that is generally the system.
But why is there such, and this is for anyone really, why is there such a love-hate relationship with the People's National Movement, the United National Congress, in that when one party wins, it is seen as it is not seen as a victory for the party. It is seen as punishment for that political party. So every election, you hear the electorate, the citizen at large, really bad talking each party and really seeing, and I'm sure that you all are going to disagree, but really seeing both parties as different sides of the same coin.
In years gone by, I always said, no party wins an election in Trinidad.
They lose it.
They lose it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the context in which I look at our politics.
Marlon, what some persons have said to me, and business owners, and this isn't on the island of Trinidad. Listen, let me give the lady a 5-year chance. And if they do anything stupid coming down, out they gone again. So people have reached the stage now where they're going to play seesaw with the PNM and the UNC, which is probably a good thing for us as the hirers, the employers, and let them know that if you don't, all you're getting is the 5-year contract, and if you don't do well, you're gone. Because people are fed up, and Doc said it, of the same thing over and over. We come to play football, and then when we reach, a few people come out in cricket clothes with a bat and ball, and the game suddenly shifts for the persons who signed on to come and watch a football game. And that is where we have reached. So I am not surprised by what is happening based on what the tone of the population was coming out with, which was, let me give them a 5 years. But if anything happens, we now hold no allegiance to anybody. Out they go. And therefore, that will call them to account to perform within a 5-year period. Well, at least a 3, because most of them either make it or crash in 18 months, I have realized. You start to get fed up after 18 months of what you're being dealt. And that only deteriorates. And I'm saying that maybe this is good for us as a people. I don't know, that we are changing the...
Yeah. You know, I would endorse that. I would endorse it. I think that's a good thing. And we always must be held accountable by the electorate. And we must keep their faith. And I think that's an excellent thing. And if the electorate thinks that it's time to get rid of one and go with the other, then that's a step for empowerment. And so it is up to us to having one faith, now to keep it.
Mr. Hines?
Well, you know, I heard Dr. Raghunath earlier speak about core and base support. Is it the case that the public perceives that there is no, in terms of philosophical, ideological, no real difference between the main political parties in terms of economic management and so on, and really what is in front of us is the behavior of individuals who hold office, and therefore that's the area of accountability. What is it?
That is a part of it.
Yeah.
That is a
sub. And therefore you could just simply say, okay, after 10 years, just give the other person a chance.
This is why I don't agree with that comment about let's give the lady a chance. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that the electorate is moving from one to the other, and they are in fact voting you out, and therefore will bring the other party in. The PNM has established itself as this party of the status quo, and the impulses towards the promises of change come from the other party. And when they don't deliver that change, they go back to the status quo. And they don't let you settle down, which means that there is a dysfunction in the situation, and it is being addressed in that way until one of the parties actually deliver change. And if you deliver change, you will get the chance to settle down. But you have to build the institutions. If you promise change, you have to anchor that potential in institutions. You have to be able to last for more than one term. And the party that is of the status quo has to recognize there is a demand for change. So that dichotomy between these, and that is why they seem to be part of one particular dynamic,
but
right?
We don't take much risk then, because why the third party option never works? Because I have status quo and I have
alternative.
No, but let's examine these third parties that we have had to deal with this year. Most of them just...
Not this year, I'm talking about generally.
Well, in general, it has changed, but it's the third party has replaced the second. Because from the DLP to the ULF, they're very different parties. And when people call them the same party, that's based on a racial interpretation. They were very different parties. They were fought against each other. And then when the NAR came after, and then the UNC came after. So we did have changes in Parliament. In fact, we've had more parties in our Parliament in Trinidad and Tobago than most other parliaments in the Caribbean. If you look at Barbados, it's the BLP and DLP forever, or in Jamaica.
And that is a good thing.
Yeah.
That is a good thing, that we are not the kind of country that if you're either one or the other. That there is an energy in the system that is giving rise to new ideas, and there's a lot that both parties can learn from those energies.
So, Niti, if you'd allow me, we must go to a statement from the political leader of the United National Congress, Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
From all indications, the UNC has won the election. Thank you all very much. God bless all of you. Remember to stay calm. Do not become boastful and arrogant. We have a lot of work to do, so we're heading up now to party headquarters. So good night. God bless everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, straight from constituency constituency of Separia, the Prime Minister.
Joined us, yeah. Supposed to be.
Salman, which is a marginal, is 20%. Tunapuna is trending way ahead. St. Joseph is trending way ahead. Talparo is trending way ahead. And the two Tobago seats are all blue to the Far East Party.
All right. According to the political leader of the United National Congress, from all indications, the United National Congress has won the general election. Yeah, we do expect to hear from the political leader of the People's National Movement momentarily. Yeah, who wants to jump in here?
I would have liked to hear a concession first. Yes. I know the last election, I think it was it last? Dr. Rowley did step out of the crease to declare victory, but I think the time-honored response of a you call the other party, you congratulate them, and it's a civility between leaders, and then one comes forward and concedes, and then the other one comes. And I wish that we would just honor that kind of tradition, because we are in the situation, of course, of one person having declared. The EBC hasn't said anything, and the other party hasn't conceded.
Yes.
Right? So we have just one voice.
Yeah.
And I think Dr. Roy should hurry up and come and speak to the country.
Yeah, there should be a statement shortly. We are anticipating a statement shortly.
So what we can do in the meantime, let's go to a very short break. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, so welcome back. So earlier we would have had a statement from the political leader of the United National Congress, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and I quote her, all indications are that the United National Congress has won the general election. We are standing by for a statement from the political leader of the People's National Movement. We expect that statement very, very soon, and when that happens, we are going to go live. As the information really soaks in. Mr. High, all right, so here's from what we're seeing right now, we are seeing the political leader and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Young, also Dr. Rowley, political leader, and they are about to make a statement.
Chili's up.
All right, be ready.
Ready?
You all ready?
Yeah. When you're up.
Okay, very good night to you, ladies and gentlemen. I am here at Balizé House with my colleagues, Chairman of the party, Stuart Young, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I have on my left Deputy Political Leader, Ransin Onen, who was the campaign manager. And I have here the Mayor of Port of Spain, Alderman Chinua Alin. Tonight is not a good night for the PNM, but it might be a good night for Trinidad and Tobago. From all reports, we have conducted an election. Things have gone very well with the processes. The results are coming in now. And from what we have coming into Balizé House, it is clear at this time that we have lost the election. So this press conference is what we do. We've done it before, conceding defeat on election night, but tomorrow is a new day. We've had to concede on the night of December 1986, we conceded in 1995, and we conceded in 2010. So this 70-year-old party, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't win. Tonight is one of those nights where surprisingly we have not done very well in the general election. But as we know how to do it, from tomorrow, the PNM will begin to prepare itself for the next call within the next 60 months. We wish all the winners well, because our country is now in their hands. From the reports that we have in our hand, it appears as though if the trends hold, the PNM will end up with an opposition in the order of 10 or 12 seats. But we've come back from 1 seat, we've come back from 3 seats, so 10 or 12 seats don't count us out. We will continue to remain faithful to our cause, which is to the interest and the service of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The elections are over, changes will be made, promises to be kept, reviews to be done, rejuvenation to be had. One thing we're happy about is that the PNM will move expeditiously towards its new status as the opposition. The General Council will meet on Wednesday and will direct the elected members of the House as to who should be supported for the position of opposition leader. That is a position that we have held before, and even from there, we provide yeoman service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I, as political leader, Prime Minister of recent vintage, but I still remain political leader, I did at an earlier time say to you, the media, that I've met with the general leadership of the party and indicate to them that I would not want to continue beyond the end of this year as political leader, and would, at their advice, vacate the post as soon as they would like me to, so as to facilitate the requisite convention. We will do that and will conduct our party business with dispatch, with honor, and with gusto in the coming weeks and months. So tonight, I simply want to say that we have kept the faith, we've run the course, and we still have some more running to do. If you have any questions to any of the three of us, we will take a few questions now, and we will go off to our new status. Yes, Joel? Speak loudly because we got a generator there.
What would you consider to be key factor or key factors that led to this particular result in this election?
Well, I think the population has chosen. One of the things that we have to be proud about is that in our system of governance, the management is chosen by the population. We went out there and competed for the position, and the population clearly, from Tobago to Point Fortin, the population has chosen the package of promises made by our political opponents. We can't argue with that. We put a package on the table, we put a direction on the table, we had a record behind us of the last 9.5 years. The population has chosen the package of promises. We said that we were a rejuvenated team offering, a new direction, a new chapter. The population chose those persons who they knew before, and on the basis of their past performance, they have been given the government again. We cannot argue with that. We are not going to argue with the electorate. As my grandmother has taught me, if good comes, it comes for all of us. And if bad comes, it comes for all of us. So while tonight at Balize House there is no rejoicing, as we expected to, we are not despondent. We have not been here for 70 years by holding our heads down. As Mandela said, the problem is, and the shame is, when you go down, not to get up. The PNM has demonstrated when we are down, we come back with a vengeance. And 2025 will be no different.
And Dr. Rowley, is there anything,
Media members only.
Dr.
We have a question over here. Let's get,
Who will be opposition leader?
that will be determined on Wednesday at Balize House.
Dr. Rowley, is there anything, they say hindsight is 2020, is there anything you would have done differently? I mean, going as far back as your resignation to now? Is there anything at all you think the party could have done differently?
At this stage, of course, if we've lost, we didn't do what the electorate wanted, or we didn't have what the electorate wanted. But that is the system. Those who are going into office, they're not going forever. They're going for a specific period of time. And we now have to reflect on what we have, who we are, what we offer, and get ready for the next outing.
Dr. Rowley, you resigned as Prime Minister, but as PNM political leader, do you take personal accountability for this election?
My party contested the election, the People's National Movement. I was leader of the party. I was involved, and the political leader is still the leader of the party. And if you want to put all the blame on my shoulder, we're not in the blaming business here. We are in the rebuilding business.
Do you think the way in which there's a change in Prime Ministership from yourself to Mr. Young in any way was a factor in terms of voters, especially members of your party?
Well, if you looked at what happened in Tunapuna on Saturday, you would have seen the PNM membership in their thousands supporting the position. The electorate is not the PNM membership. The electorate is much larger than the PNM membership. The turnout has not been a very high one, but of course, there are issues. Each person who votes have a reason. And I don't think there are very many votes cast based on the fact that I resigned. Because the resignation became history. We're looking forward. The PNM spoke about the future. The electorate was offered a package from the past. And we are now expecting that delivery starting from tomorrow.
Dr. Rowley, Mr. Young, how do you feel in not having the ability to carry on some of the works that you have had in your process?
Thank you very much for that question. The answer is obviously a bit disappointed. We have put forward what I believe was a very good proposal to the population. As I said only this morning, I believe we ran a very good campaign and a good fight, and we had quite a robust plan for the future. But the population has spoken, the electorate has spoken tonight, and we look forward to tomorrow morning. And the PNM is a strong party. We don't get here after 70 years, and from tomorrow morning, that's it. We're back, we rebuild. We will encourage all the young people to come forth. We have our experienced leaders with us still, and I can tell you something, from tomorrow morning you will see a strong PNM back on the road, back servicing the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And I certainly look forward to playing a part in that and a leadership role in that.
Mr. Young, there's a perception that once governments change, that the next party that comes in is just a clean sweep and they just get rid of everything. Of the things that you would have accomplished during your time in Parliament, what do you think is the one thing that UNC, if you had to tell them, whatever you do, don't touch that? What is the one thing you would tell them not to touch?
The population will judge UNC. I don't think a lot of what we achieved, especially in the energy sector, and the population and those who've elected them today would see in the next few months, next couple of years, whether they are able to deliver it. But only time will tell.
Mr. Young, what do you have to say to your supporters here tonight who are leaving very disappointed?
Disappointment is part of life. Don't be despondent. You still have a young person, not only young in name, and a person continues to be more than willing, ready and able to continue fighting for Trinidad and Tobago. I have won my seat, so I will still be there in Parliament, and believe you me, Trinidad and Tobago, despite tonight, I will fight for Trinidad and Tobago, and this party will fight for Trinidad and Tobago. And we will hold the UNC and that coalition of self-interest to the coals, and that is the new job. And you can rest assured, with every living breath in my body, I will carry out that fight for Trinidad and Tobago and the party. Those results are still coming in, but as the political leader says, we expect about between 10 and 13 seats at this time.
What major seats you lost, Mr. Young?
What's that, sorry?
What major seats you lost? What
I don't think, I don't think there's any such thing as a major seat. I don't think we've lost any PNM stronghold seat, but let's wait for the results to come in. As we all know, there are about 7 marginals here, and you have the 2 Tobago seats. So let's wait for the final results. The point is, once again, the PNM on principle has come forward. We are not dragging the country along, and we have come and we've declared a loss, and we're prepared. From tomorrow morning, we rebuild the party, all young people, you all still come on board, come and join us, and we carry on the fight for Trinidad and Tobago, albeit in a different position.
Mr. Young, we understand, well, the initial reports are that PNM has lost Tobago. Your thoughts on, because they said it's the promises and that kind of stuff that they would have made. What are your thoughts on losing Tobago?
That I hope for Tobago's sake, what they have elected tonight manages to deliver whatever has been promised to them. But as I say, the PNM will continue. We have two great young leaders in Tobago who led the charge. They were parliamentarians for the last 2 terms. And we will rebuild. As the political leader said before, this is not the first time the PNM has to rebuild. And one thing you see for sure, every time we rebuild, we come back stronger and with a lot more.
Has the laws been confirmed?
Has the laws been confirmed? We have declared it.
Minister Young, do you think that you bit off more than you could chew by accepting the task that former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Brown would have given to you?
Absolutely not. I am not the type. I was not forced into anything. I put myself forward. I offered myself for leadership amongst my parliamentary caucus. I was given that responsibility. And anytime I'm given responsibility, whatever it is, I will always give my all and give my best. So no, not at all.
Dr. Raleigh, do you think you chose the wrong person to succeed you?
I didn't choose Mr. Young. The circumstances did. In my view, I only have 1 vote. And I had the experience of office, and I guided my party to a position, and he had the majority support in that position. He came to the electorate chose somebody else as Prime Minister. Leader of the PNM is now a different story. And even though tonight is not the result we were looking for, I see very many good possibilities in what we have done. So I have no regrets in supporting him as he offered himself as the best prepared person for the post of Prime Minister. But at the end of the day, the decision lies with the national population.
Mr. Young,
yes?
Allegations of inducement being offered by the UNC to buy voters. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're more than allegations, but again, the PNM's way is not to delve into throwing accusations and allegations. I can tell you on my phone all day, it was very, very busy. We had legal teams in each constituency. I was following it very closely. And it was very disappointing, some of the behavior that can be attributed to other parties. And I'll just leave it at that. And one thing I'll ask Trinidad and Tobago, learn the lessons that need to be learned, because very often when people lead you down that garden path, it is very, very difficult to come back from that. And if that behavior that was described to me today, if only half of it is true, then I'm worried that that must never take root in Trinidad and Tobago. But we are not the sour grapes type. Thank you.
Would recalls be considered in any seat? Is any kind of...
We don't, what we're doing here, we are conceding defeat globally. We do not have final figures for any constituency. We have some preliminary numbers that indicate that we've lost seats. We have seen trends that indicate that we are not likely to win those seats. We have some figures with some outstanding polling divisions to come in. We are sufficiently knowledgeable about those polling divisions historically to know that we will not be able to overcome the challenges ahead of us in the particular constituencies. So what we are doing here, we know that we have lost the election. But to tell you which seat and by what margin and which number, we can't do that now. In a matter of some hours, when the numbers come in from the EBC, those answers will come.
Dr. Rowley, there's a perception that you went out on top when you resigned as Prime Minister. But now, the political party that you lead, they've lost this election. How do you think this loss will impact your time?
I have no time. My time has ended. The only thing I'm doing now is getting ready to hand over the political leadership.
But your time as political leader, how do you think this loss impacts it or affects it?
Well, when you contest, whether it is cricket, football, election, being second is a possibility. Somebody else could always win. That's why they call it a contest.
Dr. Rowley, do Do you wish that you had been a little bit more involved in terms of, going on the political platform more often with your successor?
No. I think I supported my colleagues. I didn't want to be overly involved because you yourself would have been saying that I am in fact, how were you going to put it? You were going to say that I am, you were going to be saying that Young had the crown, but I had the throne. That wasn't what I wanted. As a member of the party and as political leader, I came out in a measured way to provide support to the team, and I have no regrets about that, and I think I did as much as I could have done. And I didn't want to do any more because, frankly, I took myself out of the arena by resigning as Prime Minister and by indicating that I'm leaving as political leader. After 40 odd years, that was my decision, and I hope that you will accept it for what it is. Thank you all very much, and we enjoy the rest of the results, and we look forward to the new dawn tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey man, how are you?
All right, so that news conference being hosted there by Dr. Keith Rowley and Stuart Young. Really, the People's National Movement conceding defeat, according to the political leader, Dr. Keith Rowley. He said it's not a good night for the People's National Movement, and that sometimes you win, sometimes you don't win. He believes after all of the ballots are counted that the People's National Movement, that they should retain maybe 10 to 12 seats, but Stuart Young says, well, and Dr. Keith Rowley would have said that, well, the PNM will get down expeditiously to the opposition tomorrow. So here's what we do still have, I believe, the political leader of the United National Congress. I think that she's still heading down to the headquarters of the United National Congress. So we do expect to hear from her sometime later. Do we have a report from Renessa Cutting? We do? Yes? Cutting, but I'm sure that we can see what is happening at the headquarters of the United National Congress. All right, so if we are able to return to Renessa, well, we will do that. As I look in the distance there, yeah, so it's a very celebratory mood at this time at the UNC headquarters. Suniti, when you began speaking tonight, you spoke about a referendum. Yep. Yeah, and I think that's what we would have seen here tonight.
Yes, that is in fact what it was. It is a referendum on Dr. Rowley and on his decision to install Stuart Young. And I think we don't have the figures. He raised the figures of 10 to 12 seats. That is a licking. That gives the UNC every possible almost majority, which is something to be held wisely. I wish he had congratulated Mrs. Persad-Bissessar as again an act of civility. But we will have to look at the figures to see whether in fact the result is due to the PNM supporters not coming out, as opposed to the UNC getting a substantial victory. I suspect that we are going to find that the PNM members cost their party, and that was their revenge for a decision that they felt needed to take them into consideration. They wanted, if he is to leave, they wanted to vote for their political leader and to let that person, whoever that person is, the person would have had the stamp of legitimacy to become prime minister. That did not happen, and Dr. Rowley speaks very much as though, you know, he sacrificed to get the thing right. But that's not your decision as a person. This is not a successor, is the party's membership. And I think that this is what has happened today, and it should guide all political leaders. You really have to, as much as you may choose someone and like someone, you have to create a space. That is what a democracy is. So we will wait to see how the party picks up itself and whether it learns that lesson. He has said that the party will go to, he would encourage the, get very quickly. Obviously, I don't think that they will select somebody who is not an MP in the House. And so, right, it will be, I mean, they've had that situation, well, right now, right? So the contenders now, it kind of reminds me a bit of 1986, in that some of the key potential leaders are not in the race, will not be in the race, right? They have not called it, but we know some of the leading high-profile members have lost. And therefore, when in 86, nobody expected Patrick Manning to emerge, he emerged. So this is very much a situation for a wild card. Now we do have Penny Beckers, who was the other person that almost half the MPs voted for her. So she may very well, this may be the time that she comes in, or maybe they just go for somebody else totally.
Yeah. Dr. Raghunath?
Well, to some extent, I expected that we would have, there would be a lot of blame placed on Dr. Rowley's shoulders for this election defeat. And I agree it is a referendum of sorts. My concern, well, two concerns I have, or three concerns. Let me start with the easiest one, Tobago. I think Tobago would have been one of those who was hoping that we could have gotten a result like a 2019, so that their 2 seats would have counted, and they would have been able to get into government. Mm-hmm. Now with the majority that the UNC has, there's no need to embrace the TPP. Okay, because they already have a constitutional majority, a 3/5 majority. So in that context, Tobago has to reconsider where it goes from here on in terms of the TPP, and how will the TPP play towards the UNC as it goes forward. Because I noted that somewhere probably in the last week or 2 weeks, Farley Augustine saying that we're not confirming that we are going to go with the UNC. If we have to go with the PNM, we'll even consider it. And he haven't said something like that. That may have drawn a line in the sand for somebody to say, well, look, he didn't want to come with us, so let's deal with it differently. As to Trinidad and Tobago as a country, we are yet to see the figures, but from the figures we are seeing so far, if Tobago is a reflection of the lower voter turnout, I would really like to know what was all the talk today about a high voter turnout. Now, I told some colleagues this morning that if you have a high voter turnout in the UNC part of the country, not only East-West Corridor, but the rest of the country, it benefits UNC. If, however, you have a low voter turnout in the north of the country, it will benefit the UNC. In other words, along the East-West Corridor. If there's a low voter turnout, there's a chance that the UNC will take those seats, because the UNC's base is always going to go and vote, regardless of what. And that is something we really have to look at and see whether or not, for instance, La Hoqueta Talparo, St. Joseph, St. Joseph Aranguez, even Toko, as to why those seats, whether the PNM did not turn out. And if the PNM did not turn out, we'll come back to Suniti's argument that simply this was their way of telling the PNM political leadership that you all have not respected us as a people.
Yeah, Mr. Hines?
Well, first of all, I have already explained, and don't need to repeat it, the constitutionally sound process that was undertaken, a process in which Dr. Rowley took no part. I felt intellectually satisfied that that was quite fine, and I understood that eventually, after this transition, we would have gone to a convention and the issue of the political leadership and all of that was resolved because Dr. Rowley had indicated that he will be moving on. He just managed the process in the way. So for many of us, it was not this crisis issue. I doubt whether that the party members, in the way Suniti Miraj described, I doubt whether the party members share that sentiment. I think there are other things happening in the larger society that led to the result that we have seen. I must honestly indicate that I am very saddened at it, and I'm genuinely worried for Trinidad and Tobago because, like other people, we have chosen. The voice of the people has been heard. We accept that. There's no question about that. We have accepted political loss of office on 3 occasions in the past in respect of general elections. So that's not the issue. But to think that with the track record of the UNC, they now come to government again and to consider the promises, the $18 billion worth of promises that they issued, it would be very interesting to see how the people of Trinidad and Tobago are served going forward. Am I to expect in conclusion?
But on that point, why do you think that the PNM's message has not resonated with the electorate?
Well, you know, these are matters that we will have to examine on the figures. There are issues about whether they turned out, whether or not, the impact of the inducements on the campaign. All of these things will indeed be analyzed. The bottom line is, the electorate has spoken. We have accepted that, as we have in the past. And I am, for my part, I am very, very keen to see how the people of Trinidad and Tobago would fare, having made the choice that they did.
Yeah, Ms. Haddad?
From a Tobago perspective, I am super concerned. And the reason being, just what between Dr. and Suniti has said, in that the UNC no longer needs any sort of, so who is the opposition? I hope it's not Diane Haddad again, because she became the opposition for the PNM when it was PNM. So I'm saying, that being the case, Tobago is in a very funny place, particularly for the continuity of the development that has started based on where we are now with what we have gotten delivered and where we needed to go, as I would have explained it or described it in an interview. We were literally on a bridge crossing from one side to the next, and we were standing in the middle. And it was either we go backwards, go down, or go forward. And I'm waiting to see what's going to happen on that bridge.
Yeah. And from what we're seeing on the screen there is that the political leader of the United National Congress, she has arrived at the UNC headquarters. She's really the Prime Minister, in waiting, right?
Prime Minister
elect, right? And Dr. Kirk Meghu, he wants to run off air, but Dr. Meghu, you're going to have to stay with us just a little while longer. But your perspective on what we have witnessed today?
Well, following our leader, I want to congratulate Kamla Persad-Bissessar on an amazing victory, an amazing comeback victory. And I also want to follow her example, as she said, that we should not be boastful, we should not be arrogant, and congratulate our
okay, my friend. Okay, my friend. Thank you.
And yeah, and I want to say that even though we may not need the TPP in terms of numbers, but as the leader said, there are many houses, there are many rooms in our house.
In the mansion of the UNC.
Yeah, and we need to rebuild this country, and we will work with everyone.
Yeah? Let's go to the podium now. All right, Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad-Bissessar. She's getting ready to address supporters of the United National Congress. Some familiar faces you're seeing there. All right, so again, earlier, we would have heard Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar declaring victory and the People's National Movement conceding defeat. All right? She's about to address supporters of the United National Congress.
Good evening. Good night. UNC family and friends, I am very happy to join with you here at our party's headquarters. I ask you to join with me to first of all let us say thanks and praise to Almighty God. When God says yes, nobody can say no. I want to thank our coalition partners joined with us for us to secure this victory. So can we give them a round of applause? United Coalition of Interests. And of course, I thank all of you, rank and file members of the UNC who have stood with me through thick and thin, through light and through darkness. You have carried me on a journey that was filled with love, with determination and resilience. I started off this campaign by saying, you will be the real heroes in this story. And I end this campaign saying the same, you are the real heroes in this story of Trinidad and Tobago. All of you, I cannot single out one or two or three. There have been so many thousands of you working in your zones, working in your sections. Today was really a great display of cooperation and of hard work where everyone stood in their zone and worked. Whether the seat was Superior, whether the seat was St. Joseph, whether it was Tunapuna, whichever seat it was, we had teams and teams of activists and people working every single seat. And so they did so well. All of you, thank you for showing up. Thank you for staying on the course and believing in our great party. Thank you, TNT. I say thank you for your support during this campaign. Thank you for your confidence for a better TNT. And for letting the world know that we, the people, have the real power in Trinidad and Tobago. We the people, you are the people, you are the government. Not the fake elites, not the financiers with all their money, but the real people of Trinbago who have toiled and kept faith that you deserve better. This victory is for the senior citizens to keep their pensions. This victory is for public servants to get their rightful salary increases. This victory is to reopen the Children's Hospital. This victory is to reopen Petrotrin. This victory is to once again give laptops to our children. This victory is to create over 50,000 jobs. And so, the victory is yours. Now that the UNC has won, everybody wins. We have fought a clean campaign. We have fought a campaign based on policies, plans, and programs. After years we spent listening to you and taking note of your wants, your needs, your hopes, and your desires. It is now that the real work starts. From day one, we'll be focused on delivering on our promises, working to make every citizen's life better, brighter, more prosperous. I give you the assurance tonight that no one will be left behind. No one will be left behind. Because when UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins. Everybody wins. We will walk into government together. You will now have a Prime Minister who cares. A Prime Minister who loves you. A Prime Minister who will fight so that we all win together. We will work for you. You are the real bosses, and we are here to serve. Serve the people. Serve the people. Serve the people. You have an elected people-centered government for the people, by the people, and with the people. So permit me again to say thank you. Thank you. Let us rejoice and celebrate this day in our history. This has been a tremendous blessing. And once again, I thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. We will be with you every step of the way over the next 5 years and beyond. And I want to say tonight, and beyond, I want to say tonight to all our candidates who gave everything that they did, every muscle, every sinew they strained and worked so hard. Give it up for all our candidates of the UNC. Give it up for the candidates of the coalition of interests. And I say, get ready to win. It is time to win. Because now that the UNC did win, everybody wins. I have told you before, I have always told you, you have had leaders before me. You will have leaders after me. But I know you will never, ever have a leader who loves you as much as I do. May the good Lord continue to bless and keep each and every one of you. I thank you. Thank you. God bless.
All right, Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad-Bissessar, we are going to a very short break. We are coming back. All right, everybody, so welcome back. It has been a long night, and we intend to not detain you for very long again, and also our panelists. But I just wanted to get brief comments from our panelists before we end for tonight. We've all heard what the Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad-Bissessar would have said.
Well, this is an extraordinary comeback story, and another comeback kid, as we say. And Kamla Persad-Bissessar has been able to pick herself literally off the floor, get up. Incredible story of a woman who is in her 70s, who is not in the best of health, and has defeated a much younger person. And it will have to be analyzed, the precise moment when the tide turned, because it wasn't until not so long ago. I do think, as you said, there were things that they did. It's a story in political communications. I think your town hall meetings were very important because they brought the public to tell the party how they were feeling, what they wanted, and that is something that makes people invest they're seen, they're heard, and that ran parallel with the campaigning. I think that was a very important thing. Of course, all the music and so on. But the priority now is to deliver. A breakout star of this campaign was the PSA president. I considered her a very shrewd unionist because every time she said she supported the UNC, she told her members what the UNC has promised me. Every single time, unlike some other political parties that just put their support to unions that put their support to a party, she made it known to the country and her membership, what are we to expect? Because if we don't get it,
yes,
everybody will know why they walk out and the consequences that will flow. So there are some priorities that I heard the Prime Minister-elect saying their promises to be fulfilled.
Yes.
So I think that's a thing. I also hope that in this case where the government changes and the president is the nominee of the party that is now in opposition, that the parties will find a way to make peace and to function as the Constitution has been designed to work. Yeah. And that we don't have a situation that occurs from time to time that the incumbent party just puts the president on ice or the president doesn't cooperate. We've had that situation, a constitutional crisis once developed when you have differences. I hope we have a seamless transition at that level as well.
Yes.
And that from what the opposition has said, the opposition elect has said, it's time to move on to the next day.
Yeah. Thank you, Suniti. Dr. Agunath, brief comments?
From Suniti's point, two things. One, we're in a different situation now based on the majority that the UNC has won that will force well, in fact, we hope that the relationship between the government and the presidency is one that is not impacted negatively in any way whatsoever. But beyond that, I think one of the things that, if I may go back, yes, Kamla Persad-Bissessar is the Prime Minister-elect, and Keith Rowley admitted or conceded and said that his party was going to start building back as of tomorrow. One of the things that the UNC will also have to take into consideration that Kamla Persad-Bissessar is not necessarily in the best of health. Her age also tells us that she will need now to deal with the issue of succession within the UNC, and that is something that we have a prime minister today. We may need a prime minister, well, another leader to take us in, because her speech on Saturday sounded like if that was her farewell speech as a candidate, right? And clearly we are now going to have to move into that realm where she's going to have to start the process, or the party's going to have to start the process, and hopefully they will not end up in a situation like we had with the PNM, where somebody's handpicked and says, this is the next leader, but rather let the party select its leader.
Yeah. Mr. Hines?
Well, I can only, as a citizen, wish the new government well. If the government succeeds, it's for all.
Everybody wins.
No, everybody wouldn't win, but it is intended to be for all of our benefit. I expressed frankly before, I am keen on observing whether, including the PSA president, whether she gets that which she asks for. That is to say, they start off at 10%. That would make all her members, I suspect, rather happy. But of course, that, as has been insinuated a moment ago, has implications for international affairs and our ratings and all of that. So I just wish this country very, very well. And I particularly look forward to the UNC delivering on the promises that it made during the campaign.
Yes, Haddad.
I want to congratulate the UNC on a very good campaign. I think they did. I even said that in the room before we came here. They did an excellent job at reaching the people whatever it is was resonating with the man on the street and with the emotions that he felt or whatever. And as a citizen, I look forward, and more so Tobago, to see what they are going to really deliver in terms of where we are as an island and how do we move forward with all the things that we have on the table in terms of moving on for us.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Megu?
Well, I mean, I want to congratulate Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar again. This is incredible, and building on what Suniti was saying, this is a historic woman, the first female Prime Minister, first female leader of opposition, first female leader of the Commonwealth, and she was written off. People had battered her, politically abused her, and she rose like a phoenix, even more powerful, if the figures that Dr. Rowley said is right, even more powerful than under the PP government. This is an incredible historical achievement, and her political career is one for the ages, really. So that needs to be said, and she needs to be congratulated for that. And again, as she said, we must not be arrogant, we must not be boastful, and we have to deliver. We have to, as she said, serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. And we have a golden opportunity. We must continue to maintain the trust of the population, and I am certain we will do so. We will do everything we can to do so.
All right, and that's going to do it for our program for this evening. Thank you to all our viewers. Thank you to all of our panelists. It's always good to see you and speak with you, and thank you very much for your contributions here from evening into night. Thank you. It's greatly appreciated. All right, everybody. So just to tell you that in the morning, you are going to have the morning edition with Lance Motley, where he will be hosting a panel discussion concerning the election results. The guests are Dr. Mukesh Basdeo, Mariano Brown, Curtis Williams, Dr. Randy C. Prasad, and Dr. Marlene Atz and Mwale Henry. I'm Marlon Hopkins on behalf of everyone at Team 6. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.